In steamy St. Louis, where the Cardinals are trying to hang on in the NL Central, they take on the Mets today. They need to get things turned around themselves. But right now, all eyes are on the Central, which suddenly is a very good race. You've got the Reds and the Astros, each within just 2 games of the first-place St. Louis Cardinals. Welcome to St. Louis. Josh Lewin along with Tim McCarver. It's nice to have you with us on Fox today. The Cardinals have lost 8 out of 9. Not good.
Yeah, it's been a lethal combination for the Cardinals lately over the last 10 days. Bad pitching and bad hitting. And the one thing that they have done, Cincinnati was in the race. There were 4 or 5 games back, lingering back there. But the Cardinals, by playing poorly over the last 10 days, have allowed the Houston Astros, a very good ball club, to get back in the race.
And as for the New York Mets, you can make the case that they are still in this thing. They're a game over 500. They are within a cab ride of that wild card situation. But is the glass half empty or half full for them?
Well, it's been half empty. They have 47 games to try to make things up. The Mets have played over the season like the Cardinals have over the last 10 days. Poor fundamental play, missing cutoff men, doing things bad on the bases. It's been a horrible, nightmarish season for the Mets, but they do have about a third of the season left.
The Mets will send Sean Estes to the mound today. They are trying to make it 3 consecutive wins, which this season qualifies as a pretty good streak for the New York Mets. They've brought out the big bats. They are ready to go against the St. Louis Cardinals. They've got Drew and Edmonds, and now Scott Rowland for your pleasure. First pitch is coming up next on Fox. Fox Saturday Baseball is brought to you by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. By the American Plastics Council. Plastics make it possible. By Clarinex. Discover Clarinex today. Talk to your doctor for more information. And by Circuit City. We know how you feel. That's why we're here. Circuit City. We're with you. The St. Louis Cardinals have lost 8 out of 9. They have scored only 20 runs in those 9 games. And today they send a substitute to the mound. That is Luther Hackman. He will make only his 2nd start of the year 2002. It's only his 5th major league start ever. Luther and the Cardinals taking on the New York Mets, and they have had a season of high expectations and a very mediocre reality. Starting lineup for Bobby Valentine's team has Alomar up top, then Timo Perez, Mike Piazza, and Mo Vaughn trying to get his act jump-started here. John Valentin, Jeremy Burnett, Tony Tarasco, Ray Ordonez, and the pitcher, of course, hitting 9th is Sean Estes.
Luther Hackman, as you said, Josh, only his 5th major league start, his 2nd this year. The Cardinals are tied with the most number of starting pitchers over the course of the season with 13. And we thought because of that, things have happened to the Cardinals. Instead of giving you a scouting report, we would give you the horoscope of Luther Hackman. There is change occurring either inside your house or nearby. The short-term disruption to your routine will result in long-term benefit, and that's a key. If he does well today, he could be in the starting rotation for the rest of the year.
Thank you, Sidney Omar.
And Gene Dixon, yes. Karnak.
For the Cardinals, defensively, Scott Rowland, of course, has been the big-ticket acquisition. He's been only 6 for his first 37, though, as a St. Louis Cardinal. We throw this out there for no real reason other than just to try and even it out for him. Mark McGwire, when he joined the Cardinals, well, he was 4 for his first 37. And that one seemed to work out okay. This broadcast also available in Spanish, by the way. Just utilize the SAP button on your TV. Now, what is Luther Hackman astrologically? Is he a Libra, an Aquarius?
Luther is a Libra. I think Sean Estes is an Aquarius, and we will have Sean, his horoscope, in the bottom half of the 1st inning. We play no favorites.
And love will guide the start. It'll be Alomar, Perez, and Piazza to get things going against Luther Hackman. He is 3-3, mainly out of the bullpen. Has only allowed 2 home runs this year in about 48 innings of work. Strike 1, and we are underway. The Cardinals are hoping Luther Hackman gives them 4, maybe 5 innings today. Oh, with the Cardinals having dropped 8 out of 9. Suddenly Cincinnati and Houston right there. The Mets would love to be in that position, to be just 2 games behind anybody. Right now they are way, way away from the Atlanta Braves. And technically they are in that wild card hunt. Alomar booms it to right. Into the corner it goes. It is going to thump against the wall, and Robbie Alomar is going to be held to just 1. J.D. Drew went and got it. It is a very long single for Roberto Alomar.
I mean, when Roberto Alomar hits a ball that hard, hits it up against the wall, I mean, the first thing that you have to be thinking is that he wasn't running hard out of the box. It's a fine play by J.D. Drew. But Alomar, yeah, he was running all right, I guess. But almost in that one-speed motion that has been commonplace for Major League players in this day and age.
Perez follows up by bashing one to right, and it ends up being station to station here. With 2 on, Mike Piazza will get a chance to hit. Well, the Mets have been accused of that. I guess malaise would be the kind word for it. I mean, they've been stuck in neutral all year. You haven't really sensed a lot of pushing on the back bumper to get them unstuck.
I mean, Bobby out of the box was not, it didn't appear that he was, thought that he had a home run on the ball, but still nonetheless. See it right there, and see, that's not a busting it down to first base to give you a chance to go to second should there be a momentary bobble in right field.
Wave and a miss by Mike Piazza.
Talking to Tony La Russa before the game, and I guess it's a bad sign when a manager says that what we're looking for out of Luther today is 3 to 5 innings. Competitive pitching. 3 to 5 out of your starter is indicative of how many problems the Cardinals have had with their starting pitchers this year. Just one injury after another.
Hackman is the 13th different starter the Cardinals have been forced to use this year. And all year, even before the tragic death of Darryl Kyle, the Cards have been forced to cobble together his pitching rotation. The old adage that you can never have enough pitching may as well be the official team motto here in St. Louis. And the Thumpers are up here with men on base. Piazza first, and then you saw Mo Vaughn waiting for his turn next. On the corner, and he got it.
Staying away from Mike Piazza, you can see Mike DeFelice, the catcher, straddling the outside corner. And Hackman getting the call. That pitch may have been a little outside to Mike, but the Cardinals get the call.
Now, we talked about Mo Vaughn needing to get it going, too. Yeah, the batting average is up from the 220s to the mid-250s right now. But his slugging percentage is still 20 points lower than that of Timo Perez. He did go home run hunting yesterday. The Mets ended up winning this game 2-1. They scored the winning run without putting a ball in play. They had a couple walks. There was an error and a wild pitch for the winning margin.
Strong starting by Al Leiter. David Weathers, Armando Benitez to clean it up for the Mets last night. I had a long conversation with Mo Vaughn, Josh, right before the game, and he brought up some things that I really had never thought about, saying that it's an adjustment coming to the National League. Obviously, that's a common theme. But he said you can't work the count in the National League like you can in the American League because there are a lot of first pitch strikes, not in this case, however.
Now Well, he does put himself in a position to strike. He had the count 2-0. But he pops one right above the stripe. Shallow down the left field line.
Everybody has always known that the National League, a more aggressive style of pitching. First pitch strikes, a lot more fastballs than the American League. But I've never really thought about it in the context of working counts. Well, Vaughn had the count in his favor here, but a slider, and Vaughn out in front. 2 big outs for Hackman after 2 straight singles.
And another former Seton Hall Pirate to the plate, John Valentin. Look out. The bases will be loaded now. The hit batsman. And Jeremy Burnett has a chance to clean up. The Mets have already placed an infielder on the disabled list today. Alfonso went on the DL before the game. That pulled oblique muscle.
After Hackman made 2 good pitches, the strikeout to Mike Piazza with the fastball, the slider to Vaughn. He's way off the plate with the fastball. And now a chance to do some damage by the Met right fielder.
And this man does have tremendous power. He was the last man to homer over the Tiger Stadium roof in Detroit. But the home runs have been too few and far between to really make a difference as he has returned to the Mets organization this year. Trying to pick up Alomar, Perez, and Valentin. Airs it out. It's 1-1.
Good cut fastball and on the hands of Jeremy Burnett.
One ball, 2 strikes account to Burnett. This is just very simply a massively disappointing year for Burnett. This is the year that Meet the Mets, that theme song, actually really meant something. Burnett's one of a dozen different players on this year's team, not here last year. All the moves made in the offseason to give this team a push towards the postseason. But, Timmy, it's created all the electricity of a wet tennis ball so far. This team has struggled to yank itself up to 500. Roger Cedeno was supposed to fill the void at leadoff. Vaughn, Burnett, Alomar, all disappointments.
Yeah, a team 2 years ago that faced the New York Yankees in the World Series.
Burnett drives it to right. But J.D. Drew is there, and the Mets will leave him loaded.
Meet the Mets. Meet the Mets.
Come on out and meet the Mets. You can bring the kiddies.
Bring your wife.
Bring the wife if you want to.
Yeah.
You have the time of your life. Meet.
Sean Estes is a hard luck 4-9. He will take on this St. Louis Cardinal lineup this afternoon with the scrappy Fernando Vina at the top of the order. Edgar Renteria, Jim Edmonds, Albert Pujols, and Scott Rowland, who, as we mentioned, is off to kind of a sluggish start as the St. Louis Cardinal. Tino Martinez, Mike DeFelice, J.D. Drew is all the way down to 8th in the order for Tony La Russa. Luther Hackman with 1 career base hit is batting 9th.
Sean Estes only 4-9. He has really pitched better than that, and that record indicates. But we promised the Aquarius horoscope, and we have it right here. This is not the best day for creativity, so stick with the fastballs. Don't struggle against mental blocks. All pitchers have those. And the best way to handle a tough situation is to pretend that it doesn't exist. Good advice.
Somebody's moon is on the rise. Way to go. 1-0, the count to Vina. Next week we'll have the jumble for you. 2 balls, no strikes. You wonder if Fernando Vina is going to petition the courts to actually have the word scrappy or pesky put into his legal name. It just seems like we always talk about him as one of the two. But he is. I mean, he'll hang in there, find a way to get on base and start something for St. Louis.
Back on June 15th, you talked about Fernando Vina. He was way ahead in the count right here. But that's exactly what Sean Estes did. He showed his Met teammates who he was and what kind of guy he was. He wasn't even with the club in past years, so Roger Clemens problems. And the first time Clemens came up, he threw behind him. But he is the type pitcher that Vina is as a regular player every day.
A walk to get the Cardinals going in the bottom of the first. Now it was June the 15th. Estes drew that short straw, had the assignment of retaliating against Clemens. On behalf of Mike Piazza, Roberto Alomar, the 10-time Gold Glover, is part of what has been a strikingly porous infielder for this New York Mets team. They have committed 99 errors coming into play today. Everybody figured with Ordonez and Alomar up the middle, this thing would be airtight.
Gardo Alfonso, a potential Gold Glove candidate at third base. That is, if Scott Rowland weren't in the league. Running situation anytime Mike Piazza's behind the plate. Mike with the poorest percentage in Major League Baseball, throwing out only 13 of 98. So a lot of things Tony La Russa could do right here. Here's one situation with a hot hitter, however, that I'd give Renteria a chance to cut loose. And there are the numbers on Mike. Not real pretty.
Big lead for Vina. And so far it has been 7 balls, 1 strike from Sean Estes. And this is a guy that went 19-5 in 1997 for the Giants and actually pitched against the Mets for the Giants in the playoffs a couple of years ago. Two on. Do we need to revisit the Sidney Omar horoscope already?
This is not the best day for creativity. That first point. Man, mental blocks. Oof.
And now I guess he's got to pretend that there's nobody on.
That's right.
If we go to that last bullet point. Not easy to do, though, when there's a big lefty up there like Jim Edmonds, and Charlie Huff is out there to try and settle down Mr. Estes.
And people in baseball, Josh, vary as far as hitting in situations like this. I have a tendency to think, particularly with the guy who hits left-handers well like Edmonds, that you ought to turn him loose early in the count. There are others that think, since the pitcher is wild, let him continue to be wild. But I think, you know, from understanding pitchers or having an idea about pitchers, pitchers try to find a fat part of the plate to a hitter like Edmonds in a situation like this. You're struggling, so forget about the corners. Find the fat part. Good hitting situation for Edmonds.
Look at this. He shows bunt.
He was taking, that's that latter part, but 9 out of 10 balls thrown by Sean Estes.
And I'm with you on turning Edmonds loose, although just to throw this out there, he has not been hitting the ball real well over the last week. He is 2 for his last 23. Bends in the breaking ball, and there is finally his second strike of the afternoon.
What is going on here?
That's the second time that he's squared. Estes dumps it down in the dirt.
Yeah, the first time you can understand it, but a guy like Jim Edmonds is not hitting third to bunt. Bunt in the first inning against a guy who's struggling. I mean, now's the time to attack a pitcher, not bunt against him.
And with all due respect to Luther Hackman, this is not likely to be a 1-0 or 2-1 game today.
That's a very good point.
Cardinals have not swung at a pitch yet today. It goes to 3-1.
Got a pitcher on the ropes right now, like the Cardinals have Estes. You don't want to even think about bunting against him.
Let's see if he lets it fly on 3-1. He fouls it. The first St. Louis Cardinals swing. And you've got 80 runs batted in on deck in Mr. Pujols.
Matter right here, I think, against Mike Piazza. When in doubt, you send the runners 3-2, nobody out.
Piazza catching.
Yep, that's right.
Edmonds in no big hurry to settle in. Will Estes walk the bases loaded in the very first inning? And look at this. He throws it into center field. He can't throw a strike to any base right now.
Well, and when he does, a fielder can't handle it. That, to me, is a ball that's got to be caught by Ordonez.
Or at least stopped.
Yeah, that ball wasn't on the ground. If I'm giving an error, it's an error on Ordonez, and you got to give an error right here. At least the way I saw it. Yeah, he didn't even see that ball. That ball didn't hit the ground before it got to Ordonez.
Triple-digit error total for the New York Mets. They're the first in the major leagues to get there this year. You might have thought they'd be the last coming out of spring training. Now first base is open and time requested. Again, Edmonds is going to back away.
He'll probably get the same pitch he saw. 1 ball and no strikes, and that's the curveball. That, to me, is the best pitch to get Edmonds out with right now.
Socked down the line. Got the fastball instead. Estes has led the National League in walks a couple times in his career. It seemed to be a bit more under control this year, but so far in the first inning, it's been 11 balls, only 4 strikes. He is now dealing with Edmonds, Pujols, and then Roland. Inside. He has walked the bases full. We talked to Sean Estes yesterday about when he knows it might be a long day. Sometimes he just has a feeling.
I didn't feel like I was on my game when I threw the one hitter, believe it or not. A lot of times, you know, there's some luck involved too, but you know, the game kind of dictates how things go. And I'm one of those guys, if I can get into a good rhythm, I struggle a little bit in the first inning trying to get my bearings, trying to get some rhythm. Overthrow at times if I'm feeling strong, but as soon as I get past that first inning, I'm able to settle down and usually get into a nice little rhythm and have a pretty good game.
More first inning blues for Sean Estes.
One ball, no strikes to Albert Pujols. Already 3 walks and nobody out. I don't know if you can even call it a winning streak, Tim, but having 1-2 straight, the New York Mets have done the little things very well. They have pitched well, they have caught the ball, they have hit in the clutch okay. Not in his first inning today. They had 2 on, nobody out in the top of the inning, could not score.
Dangerous situation right here.
Catches the outside corner, 1-1. Already action in the New York Met bullpen. That ball cranked into left center field. This ball is gonna go. It is impossible to start a game any worse than Sean Estes, who started this one for the New York Mets today. 3 walks, a throwing error, and an Albert Pujols Grand Slam. And this is a spillover ovation, too. Pujols comes out to tip his cap. But they're also cheering for the man in the box. They are going out of their way to welcome Scott Rowland. He's got a tough act to follow right here.
A lot has been said about table setters in baseball. In the first inning here for the Cardinals, it's a 4-star restaurant. St. Louis has scored 4 times. It is odd, and the Cardinals do not find themselves ahead very often early in the game. In the first 3 innings of ball games, the Cardinals are 25th in run production. And here they get 4 first-inning runs. Wow.
Rowland cuts one back to the net, and if we're going to be equal opportunity bashers about getting out of the box quickly, by the way, Albert Pujols seemed to stand and admire that one. It didn't exactly get out by 100 feet.
Yep, you're right.
Upstairs, 2-2.
For whatever reason, in the major leagues nowadays, it seems like hitters are more concerned in how they look after they hit a home run as much as they care whether they hit a home run or not. But then watching, it's almost like an artist standing back and watching a painting, but an artist doesn't have to run bases.
That was awfully close to being the 4th walk of the inning. Rowland is called out on strikes instead, and he'll chat about that with Larry Vanover. Here's what we're talking about.
Right there. Of course, the ball is out, but you see that posturing all the time in the major leagues. Instead of running hard, that ball cleared the fence by about an aisle or 2.
And meantime, Estes was within a whisker of making it 4 walks plus the grand slam here in the first inning. Ground ball, and Alomar, a late jump. He and Vaughn kind of looked at each other, and they continue to look at each other in disbelief right now. Vaughn figured Alomar was going to go be Robbie Alomar, but it didn't happen.
We talked about Alomar not running. Now keep in mind, Alomar does have a groin problem, but there is clearly a miscommunication between Alomar and Mo Vaughn. But what we are seeing right now is an encapsulation of the full season of Met baseball. They played 117 games, and for the most part, you can't see it right here. You can't bend down, but clearly had either Vaughn or Alomar gone after that ball, they could have at least stopped it to make a play.
It was interesting, too, I thought, Tim, that it appeared that Alomar's first reaction as soon as the ball skidded by him was to look directly at Vaughn.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, there's really no kind way to describe what's happened here to the New York Mets in this first inning. They had a chance to blow it open in the top of the inning. And now all kinds of things have imploded on them in the bottom. We asked, courtesy of Virtual Manager, if Bobby Valentine should get Estes the heck out of here right now. You saw the results, and I'm sure a lot of people are glad they are not the actual manager right now. It's a tough call to make when your bullpen is banged up. Into right center. And it will be flagged down by Burnett. 60% said keep going with Estes. 40% said let's do something else. Right now, John Thompson is the only man in the bullpen continuing to throw.
I think your point, Josh, was well taken. About 20 minutes ago, after the two singles by the first two Mets, Alomar and Perez, if you would have said at the end of one it would have been 4-0, you would have thought, right, Mets on top, right?
Absolutely. Well, J.D. Drew goes after the first pitch with all these control problems from Estes notwithstanding. And the pop-out will finally end the inning. A nightmare of an inning for Sean Estes. We'll return to St. Louis after a word from your local Fox station. Luther Hackman has been granted 4 runs of wiggle room after 1 inning. This is only his second start of the year 2002. He'll go after Tony Tarasco, then Roy Ordonez, and assumably Sean Estes after that. Estes had a hard day's night in that first inning with 3 walks, an error, and a grand slam allowed to Albert Pujols. Luther Hackman getting a chance to start today because the Cardinals continue to go slowly with getting some of their others back in the rotation. Garrett Stevenson was scratched from what would have been his first game since May. They're also still waiting on Woody Williams to return. We've got a chance to check in with Woody Williams in this inning. Woody, the left oblique strain, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
What the heck is a left oblique?
That's the attachment right under the left rib cage is strained right now.
And is it coming along? How soon can you get back out there, do you figure?
I'm hoping in a couple weeks, but it's been quite a while. It's probably been 5 or 6 weeks already, and we'd anticipated getting back before now.
Hackman drops in a strike.
Woody, Tim McCarver here. I remember you injuring that, re-injuring that in a start here in St. Louis, right?
Right. I pulled it the first start of the season. I had actually ripped the attachment off the rib cage, and that injury took me 6 weeks to get back from, and then here I am. I strained it again. And
Come on,
it's taking longer now.
Ball drops into left field, and Tarasco is on his way for 2. A hustling double for Tony Tarasco. He never for a moment considered the fact that it could only be 1. He was going for the 2, and he made it to lead things off here in the second inning.
We pointed out some of the unsavory base running earlier in the game, and now Tarasco sees that this ball is going to drop, and even with the Mets trailing by 4, he gets to second base. Good base running by Tarasco. Woody, when you re-injured that oblique muscle, wasn't that on a swing here?
No, it was actually during the 5th inning of the game right with the Dodgers right before the All-Star game. You know, I didn't throw any one pitch. It just kind of gradually came on, but I know when I went up to bat, it didn't obviously help it, but it was by no means swinging.
I see.
Chatting with Woody Williams, who, by the way, until he was 14 years old, was simply Greg Williams. Ordonez jabbing at the bunt. And Hackman steps and throws. The sacrifice is in the books. So what happened to get it from Greg to Woody at the age of 14, Mr. Williams?
When I got to high school, we moved to a new area. And I was on the 9th grade basketball team, and there were several Gregs on the team, and I guess they thought I resembled Woody Woodpecker, so it's the name they gave me, and it stuck.
Do you see any Woody Woodpecker in there?
I do not. That, again, we've had an odd inning and a half of baseball. That was an odd play. There's Woody Williams right there. And a left hamstring for Garrett Stevenson, another starter with the Cardinals. But Woody Williams has just been terrific since coming over from San Diego late last year.
Runner at third, 1 out. In a bit at the corners are the Cardinals. Sean Estes takes a strike. He does have 3 hits this year, including a home run off none other than Roger Clemens. already talked about that game between the Mets and the Yankees. Estes throwing behind the Rocket Man. Two strikes to count.
That's why it was an odd play, trailing by 4 runs for Ordonez to bunt a runner to third base with the pitcher coming up. And these are the types of plays that the Mets have been doing all season long. It just makes you scratch your head. To me, I don't think you ought to give a sacrifice on a ball like that.
And you're looking like you're exactly right, because Estes is down on strikes. The second strikeout for Luther Hackman. That does put some undue pressure, I suppose, on the pitcher. You're 30 out of 340 for your career.
Yeah.
You're being asked to come through right there. Well, it's back to the top of the order. Roberto Alomar comes to the plate. Nice stop by D. Felice. We continue to chat with Woody Williams, who, by the way, has one Major League home run to his credit. I bet you can describe that for us, Woody.
Yeah, it was definitely a nice feeling. It's, you know, it's hard to explain, but, you know when you hit it, you don't even feel it hit the bat. You know you hit it pretty good, but, you know, hitting's a fun part of the game, and it's one thing the guys in the American League, the pitchers there, don't get the opportunity to have as much fun as I do.
Yeah, you... You came up with the Blue Jays. You didn't get that chance for a while.
That's right. You know, I'll never change anything that's happened to me in the past. But, you know, if I could have obviously chose, I would have chose this league.
Woody Williams also showed us before the game that he is in charge, at least when nobody else is in the room, of that CD player in the Cardinals clubhouse. You went with the no music, I noticed.
Yeah, sometimes it gets a little bit on people's nerves and starts racking their head a little bit too much. Sometimes silence is all we need.
We'll try and remember that in this booth.
That's right.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Alomar.
Get over there.
Ground ball, second base. The New York Mets, despite a leadoff double, do not score against Luther Hackman. Fox Saturday Baseball brought to you by KFC. There's fast food, then there's KFC. And by Old Navy Rugby. It's now available for your whole bunch.
Statue of Stan Musial here in St. Louis, the greatest Cardinal. And you heard that sound, the voice saying, "Get over there," when Alomar grounded to the right side. Major League catchers are trained to say, "Get over there" on ground balls to the right side. But that was not the catcher who said, "Get over there," to end the second inning.
Who was that masked man?
Woody Williams. Woody saying, "Get over there," telling Luther Hackman to cover first, right?
Yeah, sometimes when we're out there pitching, we lose focus on everything other than making the pitch. And, you know, it's just a nice reminder for someone to scream at them.
Again, Woody Williams hoping to be back in a couple of weeks for the Cardinals. Luther Hackman, who was 0 for 6 this year, 1 for 12 in his big league career. He is up in the count 2-1. A very forgettable first inning for Sean Estes. Now, what do you have? I'm sure you've seen Luther Hackman take his hacks in the cage. What kind of hitter is this guy?
I mean, he's obviously a guy that hadn't been up there that much, but he swings at bat pretty good. You can't tell by that swing right there, but for the most part, he does pretty good.
Woody, I think in a situation like this, Luther Hackman is worried about at-bats and not hits. If he gets 2 or 3 at-bats, that means he's pitched well enough to stay in the game.
That's right. If Luther gets 3 at-bats today, he's done an outstanding job. And, you know, he's got through 2 tough innings so far with guys on base, but hopefully he'll go out there and get an easy one this next inning.
Fernando Vina with 1 out in the inning now. That wasn't quite the old Roger Clemens behind your head thing, but it is 1 ball, no strikes.
Sean Estes really having a difficult time establishing any kind of rhythm. And Woody, not being a pitcher, but having an idea about pitchers, I mean, what's it like when you go out there and you can't find a rhythm, you can't find the plate, nothing you throw is a strike?
Well, it obviously makes the game a lot harder. But, you know, you go out there in the first inning, you're trying to feel for it, and you're not able to make your pitches and hit your spots, and then all of a sudden you think you have to nitpick, you know, and then all of a sudden you're actually just trying to throw it up there like a dart like he was in the first inning. But, you know, the hitters are so good, if you let that happen, and then all of a sudden you make one pitch you don't want to make, like you did the Pujols, all of a sudden it's 4-0.
What is the other thing that we're wondering, just I guess as a collective right now? The Cardinals have lost 8 out of 9 coming in, but you've still got a 2-game lead in the Central. Collectively, how are you guys feeling about these final 6 or 7 weeks?
We're doing all right. I mean, we've been through a lot this season, and the last little bit has obviously been a test for us, but, you know, we're very thankful to be in first place still.
Fernando Pena, who was walked in the first inning, is now hit by a pitch in the second. He was almost hit by a pitch earlier in that at-bat.
Yeah, but a little glance out there. I mean, you got to understand right here, and after you're hit by a pitch, there's no understanding anything. But you can see Fernando looking at Estes, but clearly all Estes wants to do is throw a strike. He has really been struggling with the strike zone.
That is the 12th time that Fernando Pena has been hit by a pitch this year. 1-on-1 out for Renteria.
Come on, Edgar.
Well, Edgar Renteria, Woody, it seems like he's really found himself in extra gear this year.
There couldn't have been a nicer guy. I mean, the guy works hard and one of the nicest human beings you'd ever want to come across. And, you know, it's just so nice to see it happen to someone like him.
And nationally, I don't know if it's because he's got the thick accent. I mean, you don't hear him interviewed that much. But when you do sit down and talk to him, well, he's a very funny, very well-spoken guy.
Right. He's very funny. He has great personality. But the thing about him is he's so worried about saying the wrong thing or coming across the wrong way that he shies away from the microphone.
I'll tell you what, Woody, he said the right thing when this week they named a ballpark after him in East St. Louis, part of the Bobby and Jackie Kersey Foundation in East St. Louis. Edgar from Barranquilla in Colombia. He had never had a ballpark named after him, and here he comes as only a 26-year-old and had one named in East St. Louis. A lot of great things Jackie and Bobby Kersey are doing with that Kersey Joyner are doing with that East St. Louis project.
Another hit batsman, Jim Edmonds, was nipped by this one. And Pujols is coming up with a chance for 7 RBI in the first 2 innings.
Well, you're hearing boos from the Cardinal fans. What you should be hearing are cheers from the Cardinal fans. When Jim Edmonds is hit, now you hear the cheers. But if you're a Cardinal fan, you love this happening. Pena and Edmonds both hit by pitches for a guy who had a Grand Slam home run 1 inning ago.
And Sean Estes, who had hit only 3 batters all year coming in, has now hit 2 in the last, well, minute and a half, basically.
Yeah.
We flash you back to only an inning ago. Albert Pujols. That one hung a little bit for him, didn't it?
Hanging breaking ball right around the letters. Not for long. Catchers don't catch those.
Pujols now up to 25 home runs for the year. Hard hit. Ordonez grabs it and goes a short way to end the inning. Woody Williams, we'll get back to you in a little bit. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Still 4-0 in St. Louis. First pitch is a strike here in inning 3 in St. Louis. The Cardinals on an Albert Pujols Grand Slam lead it 4-0. Sean Estes has had some serious control issues today. 3 walks. 2 hit batsmen. Renteria. Backhand. A spin around. Close play. Got him at first.
It's rare that a fielder on the left side of the infield can turn to his right and still get a speedy runner. Usually you will see a third baseman or shortstop turn to his left and make that play. But Renteria continuing to his right since the play was a backhand play to get Perez. Good play by Renteria.
Tony La Russa calls him the best all-around shortstop in the National League. Rip and a miss by Piazza.
And in fairness, you put Edgar in the American League and he'd be about the 5th best shortstop. The American League has never had, neither league has ever had the wealth of shortstops like the American League has right now.
Well, just take a look at your RBI leaders in the American League. And yeah, Ozzie Smith set the defensive standard for everyone in both leagues. Yes, he did. And the count is 1-2. But Alex Rodriguez, Nomar Garciaparra, Miguel Tejada, those are 3 of the top 4 RBI totals right now in the American League.
That's remarkable.
Those guys are shortstops.
Yeah. A defensive position. A position that scouts, general managers, and managers always think of defensively first.
Flare towards the crowd. And you know, you've also got a middle infielder besides Derek Jeter in New York, a guy by the name of Alfonso Soriano at second base, who's closing in on a 30-30 season already. He's got 28 home runs. He's a leadoff man.
You have Brett Boone in Seattle. Boone has been hot since the All-Star break. The guy last year who had, what, 142 RBIs? Middle of the infield thunder in the American League.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Piazza. Alfonso Soriano, if the Yankees indeed make the playoffs, and you figure that they will, one way or the other, I mean, how about that guy for MVP?
We have talked about that over the last 2 or 3 months. Is he more valuable to the Yankees than Giambi? In my view, yes.
One guy sets the table, the other guy clears the table off, but Soriano's been doing a lot of bashing too. We mentioned the 28 home runs.
He does both.
Piazza is down on strikes for the 2nd time today. Ackman just up and blew it by him. Now the more traditional power hitter. That would be your first base archetype. But before the season began, would you have figured that Alfonso Soriano would have about 10 more home runs than Mo Vaughn?
No.
On the ground and just fouls, getting down that first base line. Well, things got so bad for Mo this year, he actually rendezvoused with an opposing coach in an effort to retool his swing. Mike Easler, who used to be the hit coach here and a one-time Boston hitting coach, that's where he and Vaughn got to be tight. Easler now a roving hitting coach for the Reds, and Vaughn summoned Easler in.
While you're roving, rove this way, right?
Rove over to an entirely different organization, if you don't mind. But he essentially bypassed the man who was the hitting coach at the time, Dave Engel. Wanted to go with what he was familiar with, and that is Mike Easler.
Easler, a left-handed hitter, and it's interesting how differently left-handers approach pitchers compared to right-handers. In my view, I think every team should have a left-handed hitting instructor and a right-handed hitting instructor. They're that different.
Down the left field line, Mo Vaughn will hunt for extra bases here. He is on his way for 2. And a 2-out double.
Good piece of hitting by Mo Vaughn right there. There's not a lot of outside pitching to Mo Vaughn. That's going to be a strike that he can't handle. That's why he stands right on top of the plate. That's why a lot of National League pitchers try to pitch him inside so much, because of his ability to handle the outside pitch like he did just then.
John Valentin playing third base today and hitting behind Mr. Vaughn. We mentioned Alfonso going on the DL today. They have brought up young Marco Scutaro in his place. Sounds like Phil Rizzuto getting behind a Chef Boyardee product. Scutaros.
Marco Scutaro.
0-2 the count.
The Scutaro. I doubt that the Scutaro is listening today, since the Mets are not one of Scooter's favorite teams.
No.
No. Scooter has only one deity in his life, the New York Yankees.
Valentin guides it down the line of foul. And the thing about third base for the Mets, I mean, it has been such a tough position for them to fill consistently. A lot gets made about that. 40 years of Mets baseball, 123 different third basemen that they've used. But Alfonso was supposed to just kind of settle in there again this year. They were comfortable with letting Robin Ventura go cross town. And Ventura is having a huge year.
Right.
Two balls, 2 strikes. One of the other games on Fox today, the Red Sox with Pedro Martinez taking on Minnesota. Red Sox trying to close in on those New York Yankees. Slowly to short, there's Renteria. Cross diamond, and that'll do it. With runners in scoring position, the Mets are nothing of 6 today. It is still 4-zip. It is 4-0 St. Louis on an Albert Pujols Grand Slam. And we'll see if Sean Estes has steered out of the skid or not. He weaved in and out of trouble in that second inning. Now he opens up with Scott Rowland. And if Rowland's got it in him to finally bust out as a Cardinal, maybe it happens today. He is 6 out of 13 lifetime against Sean Estes.
Well, he's 6 out of 38 since coming to the Cardinals from the Phillies. He has had a tough offensive time, but a period of grace for Rowland. However, that period of grace ends when you lose 8 out of 9. Fans here in St. Louis, a lot has been said. These are some of, if not the best baseball fans in the country. And giving Rowland a 60-second ovation when he was first announced. This ball ties him up inside. There is a real change when you change clubs in the middle of the year, particularly when you go to a contender, because they want immediate results.
And the Cardinals traded for Rowland with no assurance he'll still be a Cardinal next season. But GM Walt Jocketty has a pretty good track record. Neither Jim Edmonds nor Mark McGwire were signed and sealed when they were traded over. A couple months of bathing in that adoration from these fans, and they were good to go. Spraining elbows, reaching for that pen. Where do I sign? They say that for a Midwest guy with Midwest sensibilities, St. Louis is a pretty good fit.
Scott from Jasper, Indiana. See, missing a ball like that, and at bats you get pitches to hit. Scott had a fastball to hit right down the pipe there. fouls it back. When you're going well, you don't foul those back. You hit it hard somewhere.
Outside, 3-2. You mentioned Jasper, Indiana. Scott Rowland's mom is from tiny Petersburg, Indiana, which is a hometown of the great Gil Hodges. So a little New York Mets tie-in. Another Estes walk. His fourth to go with two hit batsmen. And right now, Jeannie Zelasco with a game break.
Well, Josh, we celebrated the shortstops. The pregame show, Omar and A-Rod meet again. Omar Vizquel confessed he liked offense better than defense. Alex Rodriguez said, give me the glove work. And guess what? He helped assist in the out. Bottom five, it is 1-0 Rangers.
Alex Rodriguez for a last-place team, as long as we're talking MVPs today, is putting up MVP caliber numbers. But if that team finishes 20 games under 500, does he get a sniff of that?
Ernie Banks did with the Chicago Cubs back in 1958 and 59.
Andre Dawson also with the Cubs.
Yeah.
1987. So there is precedent, to be sure.
Best player in the game today, even with the remarkable consistency of Barry Bonds. Home run number 600 last night. Roberto Alomar, 2 home runs away from 200. Jeremy Burnitz, 1 home run away from 200. Jeremy Burnitz has averaged 34 home runs a year for the last 4 years. Barry Bonds has 401 more home runs than Jeremy Burnitz.
Martinez to the opposite field and tearing after it, Tarasco. He'll grab it. Now, next week on Fox Saturday Baseball, you might see Jim Edmonds and these St. Louis Cardinals trying to keep pace in the NL Central. They'll take on Pat Burrell and the Phillies, and should be an interesting reception for both Scott Rowland and J.D. Drew. You might see Jason Giambi and the Yankees taking on Ichiro and Seattle. It all begins next week. With This Week in Baseball at 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Central, right here on Fox. J.D. Drew has already been back to Philly. So you hear the boos cascade down on him. Scott Rowland has been living that, but in a white uniform in Philadelphia this year. He'll go back officially as the enemy next week.
You and I will be in Philadelphia next Saturday to do the Cardinals and the Phillies. It's going to be an interesting reaction from Philly fans. And I think we said this last year. A lot of people have talked about Philly fans and now poor fans they are. In my view, not only are they not bad fans, but they take baseball and their sports in that city religiously. And they care very, very much. Larry Boa, as a coach with both San Diego and Anaheim at one time, said that every player in Southern California who played for the Dodgers, the Angels, the Padres should have to spend at least 1 year in the Northeast Corridor.
Tarasco again will make the play. Well, you had Mo Vaughn to find out that the grass isn't always greener on the other coast. He's an East Coast guy. He figured he'll go out and hang out in the sunshine and go where the expectations seem to be lower. And he found that he missed the heightened action that you get on the East Coast.
And it's obviously no criticism of fans in Southern California, but baseball is different in Southern. It's more of a recreational sport. It's not taken as religiously as it is in Philadelphia, New York, Boston, and maybe Washington next year.
The runner goes, and the throw by Piazza is not close. Tim gave you the scouting report. Mike Piazza is last in the major leagues in terms of throwing out potential base stealers. Scott Rowland with a pretty easy time of it.
In fairness to Mike right there, he had no chance. A big jump by Rowland. And he is easily safe. And I guess that's the most disturbing sign about Mike's situation and what stealing does. Now they have to walk through and pitch to Hackman. So the Cardinals will have a top of the order in the bottom of the 4th inning. but it's how easily runners have been getting into bases that has been a cause for Bobby Valentine and the Mets. Cause of concern.
Well, the Mets seem to play a remarkable number of one-run games. And sometimes in those one-run games, little things do tend to add up.
Surprisingly, the Mets have played 42 one-run ball games, and they've won 24 of them. Usually that's a sign of a team that's a contender, but not for the Mets. Mets 24-18 in one-run ball games.
And again, it's not like the Mets are hopelessly out of it. 58 and 57 coming in. And when they're done with St. Louis this weekend, Tim, the Mets have only 12 games left on their schedule against teams with winning records. That sounds good as it leaves the lips and hits the ears, but the Mets aren't really beating the weaker sisters of the National League. Hackman with a ground ball. Scooped up by Alomar. And that is that. Each team is stranded 5 through 3. It's 4-0. Luther Hackman is working with a 4-0 lead as we get to the 4th inning now. Josh Lewin in for Joe Buck. Tim McCarver normally works with Joe. So does Mike Shannon on the radio side here in St. Louis. And we just figured we'd complete the picture for you, connect every last dot for you, and bring you Mike Shannon today.
Timmy, have you seen him?
I haven't seen him since 2 weeks ago.
Joe Buck, he's lost. What's happened?
Oh, he's still in St. Louis. I don't know what he's doing now. Do you?
Well, wait a minute.
Josh, you have an idea?
Yeah, I got a memo on this. I don't know if you guys...
Email? Wait a minute. Is this an email?
Yeah, it's a newfangled intranet thing. I think he's doing football on Fox, Mike.
Wait a minute. Football hasn't started. There's no football.
Well, in defense of my buddy Joe Buck, and I think your buddy Joe Buck, and yours, by the way.
Well, he was our buddy, but he's lost. I mean.
Yeah.
Well, he once was lost, but we know where he's going to be. He's going to be doing the NFL on Fox. A great booth this year with Troy Aikman, Chris Collinsworth, and they've got a game for you on Friday.
He's got a quarterback and a receiver.
Yeah, Josh, what are you talking about? There's no football. The Rams in Tennessee play the first preseason game tonight.
I understand that.
In Nashville. Come on.
And that doesn't count preseason.
Oh, it doesn't count.
Well, it does for Tennessee. They're still trying to get even for that Super Bowl game.
Michael, quit ripping Tennessee.
No. Hey, that's my buddy. He went to school with Timmy.
Now, by the way, we do have some advice for Joe. In the football broadcast booth, the truck reminds him that on 4th down, it's not bunt, it's punt, actually, and Willie Mays no longer plays for the New York Giants. Go ahead and read Rule 14, Section 3, Article 1 when you have a moment, and we do remind you that you've got NFL preseason football on Fox. Joe in the booth with the Bears and the Rams Friday at 8 Eastern. That is the big debut.
Well, that's some ball game, the Bears and the Rams.
Yes,
there's no love lost there. That's a heck of a start.
Bears without a home this year, right? Soldiers Field under renovation.
Yeah, they'll play in Champaign. Now, we figured as long as we've got you here, Mr. Shannon, maybe we, I don't know, talk some baseball too. The Cardinals have lost 8 out of 9, but what's the sense that you get? Is this just kind of a little pothole, or are things going to be okay?
Well, I think Timmy can tell you about teams go through these kind of things. There's been so much turmoil here, okay, and we can start with whatever you want to start with. The pitching was decimated at the start of the season. Then we had the Darryl Kyle death that was just unbelievable, and Jack Buck passing away prior to that. It just all came down, and then the people trying to get their feet on the back on the ground.
Tony Tarasco drives it to center field. That'll send Burnitz retreating back to first. There's one down here in the top of the 4th inning.
And then you try to acquire new people, and you do. And the Cardinals have picked up Finley. Chuck is going to pitch tomorrow night. Then they pick up Scott Rowland. But Timmy will tell you, when you're on a team that's settled and then new people come, you just have to learn what's going on. And I think what happened is Finley wants to do so well. Tino Martinez joins this club. He wants to do so well. Scott Rowan wants to, and I think they try a little too hard. They want to go too fast. When all of this settles in, then your offense is going to click in, and the pitching will click in. And this is still a team that you're going to have to contend with. They're very good.
And they did go out and fix the roof, admittedly, while the sun was shining. That ball drilled by Ordonez deep into right center. Ray Ordonez almost hit it out. It scrapes the wall. Burnitz thought about coming in. Matt Galante throws up two hands and says, stop right there. Boy, they got that in a hurry.
Keep in mind, this is the same guy who bunted with the pitcher coming up next, his first time up, with the Mets trailing by 4. And you have to do something more than bunt.
You have to do that. You're right, Tim. And I know that's a pet peeve of yours. You can't. Who cares if you make it out? You've got to try to score runs. You've got to try to have big innings. And any time that your pitcher gets on, or you've got a chance to do something with your 8th place hitter, hey, you've got to move. You're 100% right, and look what he does now.
It was after the double by Tarasco, and then he bunted Tarasco to third base. Estes struck out, and then Alomar ended the inning. So now it's pretty clear that Bobby Valentine will go to a pinch hitter. But I want to say something about you, my friend. You talked about consistency on a ball club. When the Cardinals traded, Josh, when the Cardinals traded for Roger Maris in the fall of 1966, Mike Shannon was our right fielder. And in the spring of 1967, he learned how to play third base in about 5 weeks. And it was a very difficult transition. And were it not for that transition that you made so successfully, we don't win 2 pennants and 1 world championship those 2 years.
Well, thank you, Timmy. I appreciate that.
And that's the truth.
Well, Roger Maris came over, and he gave us what we needed. We needed a left-handed power hitter, and it just worked out well. The reason I went over there is because they only have 1 third baseman on the team. They got a lot of outfielders. You know, I was up and down all the time, so I said, I think I'll go over there and take a chance.
Well,
it worked out
you
good.
took a chance, and it worked out great for us, I'll tell you that.
The pinch hitter is Ty Wigington. Sean Estes is done for the day. His undoing certainly was that first inning, where he walked the first 3 batters he faced and then gave up a grand slam. Cerda will be the new Met pitcher.
Against a Bobby Valentine team, all pitchers should work from the stretch with a runner on at third base, regardless of the situation. He has all his runners moving down the line, and a young pitcher, now he's stretching.
Yeah, right. He's paying. He's listening. They must have a radio down there. They have the TV monitor down there.
Well, they've got Woody Williams on mic.
There you
Maybe
go.
Woody said
that. Okay, you got it.
Hope towards right. J.D. Drew coming on. He will make the catch and fire it in to keep the runners at second and third.
Well, you bring up a very good point there, Timmy. You really have to know your opposition. You have to know the manager. And I think you learned all that through catching, because the catcher is an extension of the manager in my mind. You get a catcher that knows what he's doing, and a manager that has confidence in that catcher. It's almost like a manager on the field, because you two guys think a lot. And it was like when Whitey Herzog went out to get Darrell Porter, and when they tried to get the Kansas City manager came over here, and the Cardinals won a pennant with it.
You mentioned it seems like it's epidemic. Darrell Porter passing away this past week. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, it's very good. Josh, I'd like to commend you on the way you're taking over and not missing Joe Buck. It's wonderful to have a guy like you walk in here and work with Timmy.
Thank you, Shanny.
No one's even missed him. That's why I came over to find out where he had gone.
Yeah, you had no clue, right?
Yeah, heck. So now we know. We're going to find it. When's the first game?
It's third and long right now. No.
Friday night on Fox, prime time.
I'm watching that.
Don't be afraid to tell the Nielsen people you tuned in.
I'm going to.
1 ball, 1 strike. Now, any last advice from you? You were a football player in college. Joe Buck is going to the football broadcast booth. What do you tell your partner?
Stay away from the field. You can get hurt down there. You can hurt big time. And Joe knows that. Joe played football right here in St. Louis, and really had a terrible injury. Tackled a guy and had a broken neck. But Joe is going to do great, and we wish him the best. He is, without a doubt, the finest guy in this business. And I take my hat off to him. The way he handled everything this year, he's the greatest.
I'm absolutely with you. Thank you very much, Shanny. Good to see you, brother. Thanks. Mike Shannon It's still 4-0. Jaime Cerda will take over on the mound for the New York Mets. The Mets almost got themselves a run in the top of the 4th inning. Not quite, though. Matt Galante wired up with Fox Sounds of the game.
Come on, Bernie! Come on, Bernie! Come on! Come on, Bernie, hard! Hold it right there, Bernie! Hold up, Bernie! Hold up!
See, a third base coach has that luxury. With the play on the right side of the field, you can bring a runner around the bag. But with the Mets trailing by 4 runs, no way can you take a chance on scoring Jeremy Burnett.
Jaime Cerda, kind of an unheralded member of this bullpen for New York. And he will deal with the top of the order. Fernando Vina takes down too low. Well, Sean Estes lasted only 3 innings today. And remember, last time out, he was locked in a terrific pitcher's duel with Randy Johnson. Lost that game 2-0 and turned in 7 quality innings today against Luther Hackman. 3 innings, and he is down 4-0.
That game Johnson and Estes pitched was last Monday at Shea Stadium. Diamondbacks coming in and thumping the Mets 4 in a row. The doubleheader last Saturday, then they won Sunday afternoon and Monday afternoon.
Put the finishing touches on what ended up being a 5-8 homestand for the New York Mets. Three balls, 1 strike. Vina trying to get on for the 3rd time today in 4 innings. And he has done it. That's without putting the ball in play, too. 2 walks and a hit batsman. Get you to our RadioShack.com trivia question. Flash you back to September 15th, 1969. A guy that Tim McCarver knows very well, Steve Carlton, striking out 19 Mets. At the time, it was a major league, a single-game record. But the Mets spoiled the day. They won 4-3 on a couple of 2-run home runs. Which player hit those 2 2-run home runs?
You knew after that game that the Mets were destined to win the World Series. Not only the division, and then they beat Atlanta in 3 straight, and then beat Baltimore in 5 to win their first World Championship. September 15th, 1969, when Steve Carlton struck out 19. And only recently, within the last 5 years, did I find out something that I never knew about that night. Steve Carlton was walking, and a balk is called on Cerda. Probably on the step over, it appeared. Yep, once that right foot goes behind the left leg, he is committed to go home. And that was called by Angel Hernandez, the first base umpire. But Steve told me that that night, in walking from the bullpen to the Cardinal dugout, he was looking down at his arm, thinking, my gosh. In other words, the ball was exploding out of his left hand with such velocity. He had never had that happen to him.
Huh. So he really felt it just on his way in.
He was looking at his arm. Now, if you can imagine, the great left-hander, tall, rangy, at that time not as big as he was to become, more thin, not frail, but thin, looking down at his arm and his fingers in amazement that the ball was exploding out of his left hand that night, and did it ever. And yet the Cardinals lost the game 4-3 on two-run homers by, I'm not going to tell you.
No, not yet, right. Because I know that you know.
You thought I was going to give it away.
I did for a minute, yeah. And then I thought to myself, Self, he can't be that dense. There's no way. No, bottom of the inning. We'll clue everybody in. We'll let you reveal it, though.
I remember the pitches. One a slider, one a fastball.
That's extra credit.
He was a right-handed hitter.
All right, all right. The 0-2 pitch from Cerda is smoked over to third, And Vigna quickly is chased right back to second. Renteria with an absolute smash, but right at Valentin.
Valentin hardly having to move. No chance to get the double play. And now the Mets are, I'm sure, are aware with one out, then it's a better chance to try to steal third base, even though Edmonds is the batter. You always take that extra chance with the lead, try to steal third. That's why Ordonez is behind Vigna at second base.
One thing that you notice about this St. Louis lineup, especially with the addition of Rolen now, it really has plenty of balance. 4 lefties, 4 righties, day in, day out. And players that can all do more than one thing. Even the big beefy guys, like Pujols and Rolen, can run a little bit. And even the little guys like Vigna can bang a double off the wall. Whitey Herzog had the ultimate balance in his lineup in the mid-'80s. At one point, he would start, what, 6 switch hitters in his everyday lineup.
Speed in the outfield, too, with Willie McGee, Vince Coleman, Tito Landrum.
Yeah. 3 balls, no strikes to Edmonds.
Andy Van Slyke, Lonnie Smith in those years. And what a rivalry in those years between the Mets and the Cardinals.
Well, you bet.
Cardinals won in '85 and '87. The Mets won in '86, then lost to the Dodgers in '7 and '88.
Orel Hershiser was magical for L.A. Rip, and Edmonds didn't get it.
May remember the name Howard Johnson. Good curveball right there, tightly wrapped by Serta.
Not the ice cream guy, the third baseman, right? Howard Johnson?
No, yeah, right. Howard Johnson, now the manager of the Brooklyn Cyclones.
Edmonds, and Carrasco is playing in. He's got a fade back on it. He will make the catch. 2 down. Vigna's going to trot from second to third, and will make it there pretty easily. You want Hojo, we give you Hojo. That's part of the 1987 season, and the Cardinals overcoming. Tony Pena says, you know what, I'd like to check something here.
Bill Dolly, the right-hander. Tony Pena, who is now the manager of the Kansas City Royals, felt bad about asking Howard Johnson for his bat. Whitey Herzog coming out. Howard Johnson just killed the Cardinals in those days. Big home runs off Todd Worrell, who couldn't get him out. Howard now the manager of the Cyclones, a Class A affiliate of the Mets, and he is coaching third base, and I know is watching today's game. He was a terrific third baseman during the 80s for the Mets. Obtained by the Mets from Detroit for Walt Terrell.
Pujols has to jump out of the way. It was his grand slam that has accounted for all the scoring in this game.
Yeah, those were the dueling bat days between the Cardinals and the Mets. The next day, following Whitey Herzog sending that bat, Howard Johnson's, to the commissioner's office, Davey Johnson, the manager of the Mets, asked for a Cardinal bat to send to the commissioner's office, thinking both were corked.
Kevin Kennedy, watching from the studio in L.A., I'm sure, is chuckling softly to himself. He was involved in one of those, too, with Mr. Albert Bell in a playoff series. That was at Jacobs Field. Last night at Jacobs Field, they went out and patted down Kenny Rogers like he was in the movie Naked Gun. Like he was hiding an acetylene torch in there somewhere. Rogers perfect through 7 innings. I know they didn't find anything on him. That's ball 4.
I was talking to Jim Pratt the other day, And Jim, now the great announcer for the New York Yankees, perhaps watching the game today, but Kenny was telling me that he said, do you know who the second highest paid golfer in the world is today? The number one, obviously, is Tiger Woods. Number two, Albert Bell. Do you know that Albert Bell still gets meal money?
I did not know that.
He still gets meal money.
I know he's still on the payroll, the Orioles, because of insurance.
$15 million a year, but when the Orioles go on the road, Albert Bell still gets meal money. Are you kidding me? What? What's wrong with this country?
We'll tell you when we come back. Steve Reed is on the mound. We had 2 minutes to try and figure out exactly what's wrong with his country. Tim and I whipped. So we'll just go back to baseball here. Reed coming over just recently. He has been in the playoffs with Colorado, Cleveland, and Atlanta in the past. He is trying to get there with the Mets now. And he inherits runners at first and third, 2 down. Scott Rowland still looking for that bust-out hit in a St. Louis Cardinal uniform. That will not be it. He flies to center, and the inning ends. It is still 4-0 on the strength of the Pujols Grand Slam in St. Louis. Luther Hackman was asked by the manager to, quote, give me 5 before the game. That has nothing to do with a greeting. That has everything to do with how many innings. And he is online with a 4-0 lead right now. Hackman on the mound. Woody Williams still on the DL, but wearing the microphone for us. We'll get you back to Woody in just a moment. It is Timo Perez, Mike Piazza, and Mo Vaughn here for the Mets in the 5th against Hackman. Woody, we were just talking about the game between the Rangers and the Indians last night, the shakedown of Kenny Rogers. I don't know if you got a chance to see that, but they were a little bit suspicious. Vina gets up. Safe the call at first. Well, what a play Fernando Vina made, going deep into the hole back behind second, and he just about took care of Perez.
Making the play is one thing, making it close is another. Strong throw by Vina. Bang, bang at first. Just a great play by Fernando Vina. That was very, very close at first base.
Angel Hernandez, the umpire, he rules safe, and Mike Piazza comes to the plate. Woody, we were going to ask you if you've ever been patted down on the mound by anybody.
I couldn't quite hear you. There it is.
Mike Piazza fouls one. We'll get back to you. DeFelice throwing to first after grabbing the baseball, but Perez was right back there. Mike Piazza now 0 for 3. We're just wondering if you saw the whole Kenny Rogers episode yesterday, and if you yourself have ever been patted down on the mound.
It was quite a funny situation there.
Woody, we're kind of catching you in between rooting for the Cardinals and trying to talk to us, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about that. I just enjoying caught up in the game here. I know.
Never let the game get in the way of good television.
That's
what
right.
we
I'm
always
probably
say.
not very entertaining right now.
That's right, Woody. You have shared responsibilities now up here in the booth, Fox Television and the Cardinals. How about this job by Luther Hackman, Woody?
Oh, he's done unbelievable. This is huge for us. You know, hopefully he can get a big double play ball right here out of Mo.
We've mentioned Hackman making only his 5th career Major League start. And Woody, I knew or know when you first came up with the Blue Jays, you were one of those guys that kind of had to swing back and forth between being a bullpen guy and then ultimately you ended up being a starter, but really not full-time until 1997. You broke in professionally in 1988.
Right. It was definitely up and down time, but you know, I learned a lot from being out in the bullpen on how to pitch, and You know, like Luther, it's just a matter of him getting a lot of innings. The more innings he gets, the better he's going to be.
Runner goes.
Shoot.
Thank you for using the double O version of that.
No, you don't have to worry about that with me.
All right. So Mo Vaughn takes a pitch down too low. And the stolen base for Perez will be his 6th of the year.
In a sense, I know it's a stolen base, but you don't know whether it's good for the Mets or bad for the Mets. I mean, by stealing second, you take the hole away from Mo Vaughn, and really you want base runners now, and not necessarily 90 feet.
By the way, Woody Williams, I can tell this story on you. You don't have to brag. You own this guy. He has not taken you deep. You have struck him out 10 times in 20 at-bats. Do you have a secret that you care to share?
Well, I'll tell you what, the first time I was ever called up to AAA, I was up there 10 days, and I remember at old MacArthur Stadium in Syracuse, first time I ever faced him, he hit one so far off of me.
Did he put it over the big blue monster out there in center?
You know, he hit it over the old clubhouse in right field.
That's where I believe there used to be a dump in that area. Is that right?
And the Candle Factory, right?
Yeah, right.
Yes.
They got a beautiful new stadium in Syracuse now. Don't know where they're making the candles anymore. Fouled back to the net, still 2-2.
Syracuse, I believe, the home of the Boxing Hall of Fame, is it not?
I think it is.
Carmen Basilio from Syracuse.
Basilio.
Yeah.
Bowling here, boxing there.
Yeah.
Two balls, 2 strikes account to Vaughn.
Gosh,
Looking for the inside corner. See, Woody, we're trying to leave you alone and you're cheering here.
I know, I'm botching y'all's program up.
No, this...
not at all. Woody was looking up to the booth, shrugging his shoulders, saying, hey, got my mind on the game. I don't blame you.
We need a big pitch right here.
As we cue the Jeopardy music, let's ask you, what I mean, do you want your catcher coming out in this situation? What do you guys normally hear from your catcher here?
Well, I think, you know, we try to get on the same page. You know, some guys are different with what pitch they want to throw, but, you know, with Luther not having been out there, you know, this kind of uncharted waters for, you know, for a long time for him in the 5th inning.
And this is big because obviously he gets through this inning, he's eligible for that win.
Right, you got a couple of big hitters coming up right after Mo. Valentin's just as dangerous as anybody in the lineup. Catch it.
Yes, sir. Mo Vaughn will dump it into left center field, and it rolls all the way to the wall. Mo Vaughn with extra bases for the 2nd time today. He will trade places with Timo Perez, and the Mets are finally on the board. It is 4-1. Well, the Mets had been 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position.
Second double of the day, and the Mets are finally on the board. Looked like a slider down the middle of the plate, and it squeezes between Edmonds and Pujols. Perez scoring easily. And remember Tony La Russa saying that 3-5 out of Luther Hackman. Tough situation for Luther, only his 2nd start, 5th major league start.
Blasting that one too far in to John Valentin. Again, we are talking with Woody Williams. We learned that that nickname was put upon him about 22 years ago. The very faint resemblance, we believe, to Woody Woodpecker. Down the left field line it goes. It is hooking and it's fair. Valentin will speed towards second base. Another Met double. Valentin went in standing up. And the play a lot closer than maybe it should have been. Consecutive doubles, and now you wonder, does Hackman have to come out?
Now you can imagine what Tony La Russa is thinking as Valentin hooks that ball just fair down the left field line, right on the line. And La Russa has to be thinking that this is going to be all, and that is, here comes Tony, and he's almost got to go to the left-hander right here, but he did get 4 1/3 competitive innings out of Luther Hackman.
And if you're Luther Hackman, you sure do want the 5 and the win.
Sure.
But the Cardinals, in the race that they're in, can't be that sensitive to people's feelings right now. The lead is down to 4-2. Luther Hackman did not get out of the 5th inning. The Mets are out hitting the Cardinals 9-2, but the Cards still leading by the score of 4-2. Mike Matthews threw 32 pitches in the game last night, and Timmy's out here to, well, ostensibly face a couple lefties, but the Mets are going to maybe change things up on him. Marco Scutaro has grabbed a bat. Jeremy Burnett's due to come to the plate, but Burnett's 1 out of 13 lifetime against Matthews. And Bobby Valentine plays the righty-lefty card here. Runner at second base and 1 out. Again, Luther Hackman started, and Jeremy Burnitz is now on the bench for the rest of the day.
Yeah, things have plummeted that lowly for Jeremy Burnitz. Not to say anything about Scutaro, but this his first at bat of the year, or first at bat upon his call up. He was called up because Edgar Alfonso was put on the disabled list. Wow.
Scutaro does have 5 at-bats. He has 2 hits. They go get a 400 hitter here. The first time he joined the Mets this year was on the road in Cincinnati. And he happened to be checking in. He saw Bobby Valentine in the lobby, went over, said hi, introduced himself. Bobby didn't recognize him.
I remember that story, yeah.
They were chatting with each other, and Bobby said, "So what are you doing in town? Are you from around here?" "No, I'm playing for you, sir." "Oh, yeah, right. Okay, yeah, you're the new guy, right?" It has been a bit of a revolving door this year. You can maybe forgive Bobby Valentine for that. Remember, the Mets had 2 on, nobody out back in the first. They had a leadoff double in the second, and they failed to score in both of those innings. Gunning for the outside corner. Matthews did not get it there. 2-2. That ball is going to find a safe harbor in the crowd.
Sometimes the pace of a game determines your fate. Often when a pitcher comes in and works slower than the pitcher before him, things seem out of kilter. Generally speaking, the slower the working pitcher, I think the more disaster is knocks on the door.
Disaster can take a seat for a moment. 2 down in the inning, and right now, Jeannie Zalasko with a game break.
Josh, the impossible task of facing Pedro Martinez. It's the Twins' task today. 8 Ks, no walks. He is through 7. Career high 30 scoreless innings, and as the Minnesota Twins continue to try to battle the Magic, keep this in mind, Pedro has yet to lose to an American League team this season. It is 2-0 Boston, bottom 7.
All right, Jeannie, thanks. So who's your Cy Young? Is it Pedro or D'Lo? Derek Lowe also having an outstanding season for Boston.
I think up to now, Derek Lowe, seems to me, but Pedro Martinez with that. Remember just a few weeks ago, no more than 2 months ago, there was concern about his arm. I don't think he throws as hard as perhaps he once did, but the deception is still there.
I think you got to throw Barry Zito in the mix, too. He's got 15 wins.
Yeah.
That is some kind of 1-2 punch for the Boston Red Sox. Everybody talks about Schilling and Randy Johnson for Arizona, and we saw what a 1-2 punch could do for the Diamondbacks last year. All Lowe is missing is a track record. In there softly. And it's now 1-2 from Mike Matthews.
I would imagine La Russa will allow Matthews to pitch to Carrasco. He got Jeremy Burnitz out of the game. Scudero struck out, but with Ordonez coming up, Tony may go to the right-hander if Carrasco can get on.
Again, the Mets are out hitting St. Louis 9-2. But it is 4-2 St. Louis right now. Matt Duff in the Cardinal bullpen.
Yeah, that's because the Mets have outwalked the Cardinals.
7-0. Carrasco shoots it in the right, and that's a base hit. J.D. Drew comes up with it. And this ball is going to be there, not in time. Safe the call. Down to second base is Tony Carrasco.
Bobby Valentine, not an advocate, and rightly so, of the head-first slide. A fine throw by J.D. Drew. Close enough to the cutoff man, but the head-first slide and the hand just in there by Valentine. Why? He had a terrific jump from second base. 2 strikes, 2 outs. The extra step, diving in for the third Met run.
Whether or not Valentin is chastened by Valentine, we don't know if that'll happen. Bobby's got to be happy it's back to within 4-3.
Just score, baby.
Well, the Cardinals go to the bullpen again. Matt Duff, who really is a terrific story. This is a guy that was released by the Marlins out of spring training. He has been in the independent leagues, riding the buses, eating the pizzas. And now he is good to go in the major leagues. We've been chatting with Woody Williams down there in the Cardinal dugout. What does this guy feature, Woody?
2 pitches I see him mainly feature, a sinker and a slider. I think his slider is his best pitch, like that one right there.
Not bad. Ordonez chasing. It's 0-1. Woody, I heard somebody say to you in the dugout down there, forgive us for eavesdropping, that it's an odd game. 10-2 Mets in the hit department, but you guys are winning 4-3.
That's right. Oh, no. Throw him out.
Up with the ball. Firing it in. And Pujols back across to make the tag. Safe! And Woody, we spoke too soon. Matt Galante, the third base coach, said go home. And Tony Carrasco beats that tag. This game is tied.
Talked about base running earlier in the game. The reason Carrasco had a chance to score, he went to second base on that throw by J.D. Drew. And now he scores, eluding the tag of Mike DeFelice. Watch again how close it was.
What a slide.
Almost a tie in a tie ball game.
The pitcher, Steve Reed, at the plate.
You could hear Woody Williams say, oh no, on that hanging slider. Hitters do some bad things from a pitcher's standpoint, right, Woody, on those hangers?
They most definitely do. You don't get away with too many of those. Hitters will let you definitely know when you make a bad pitch.
That's a good one from Duff. And finally, the curtain slams shut on the inning, but not before 4 runs come in. This game tied up. Fox Saturday Baseball brought to you by Radio Shack, official sponsor of Major League Baseball. By Trident White. Trident White, smile brighter. and by Pepsi Cola. Experience the joy of Pepsi. Changes defensively for the New York Mets. Marco Scutaro stays in the game. He is now in left field. And that pinballs Tarasco over to right. Again, Jeremy Burnitz was lifted. He was pinch hit for in the 5th inning. But a very productive 5th inning for New York. They put 4 on the board. And now Tino Martinez tries to amp it up for the Cardinals. He'll be followed by DeFelice and Drew. Our thanks again to Woody Williams, by the way, joining us in that Cardinal dugout. Woody, sorry about that, man. It's like we put you on again and 4 runs scored.
Oh, that's all right. It wouldn't have changed anything.
All right, well,
let you get back and root for the Cardinals now, Woody. Thanks a lot for being with us.
All right, my pleasure.
Woody Williams due to come back in a couple of weeks. He hopes he and Garrett Stevenson would certainly give a lift to this St. Louis rotation.
Speaking of rotation, you saw Tony Tarasco rotating from left field to right field. He is playing the position now that he played back in 1966. Second game of the, or 96, I beg your pardon. Second game of the American League Championship Series. When Jeffrey Mayer made that play, he was the right fielder for the Orioles. And a month ago, he and Jeffrey Mayer were at a baseball clinic together, of all things.
What are the odds, huh?
Oh, man.
That ball spanked into the crowd.
Tony telling us before the game, Jeffrey Mayer's, what, 19 now?
Yeah, he's 19. He's got a scholarship to play Division III baseball. Armando Benitez is the man who served up that historic pitch. He, of course, is in the ballpark today. But it was Tarasco who faded back, was ready to catch the ball, and suddenly the ball just wasn't there. A then 12-year-old Jeffrey Mayer took it away. Tarasco and Jeffrey Mayer ended up talking about that episode for a few minutes. And what Tony Tarasco was left with is how scarred Jeffrey Mayer really is, even 7 years later from that incident. Martinez twisted up on that one. One down, bottom of the 5th, and we get you back to the RadioShack.com trivia question. Steve Carlton's 19 strikeout game in '69, but it was spoiled. Tim McCarver, by who? Who hit the two-run home runs?
Ron Swoboda. I can see it right now. 2 pitches, a slider on the hands, a fastball on the hands, and there is no way Ron Swoboda can hit those 2 balls out of the ballpark and keep them fair. But he did.
Foul ball bunt by DeFelice. The Miracle Mets of '69, you nailed it. You just knew they were in for something good when they can be struck out 19 times and win the game.
There is Tall Boy. Red Shandy's our manager then, Tommy Agee, going down on strikes. Red Shandy's calling Steve Carlton Tall Boy for 2 years. Tall Boy. So Tall Boy became the first pitcher to strike out 19. And just think of where the Cardinals would be, perhaps, had they not traded Steve Carlton and 2 months later, Jerry Royce.
Center field coming hard is Perez.
That was in 1972, 2 months apart. The tall left-hander who went on to win 252 games for the Phillies after compiling that first record with the Cardinals, and then Jerry Royce. So between them, they won 450 games. Those two trades made for Rick Wise, who was a pretty good major league pitcher, and Scipio Spinks. Scipio winning 6 games in the major leagues after his trade for Royce. But you think about the Cardinals, who came close a couple of times, 73, 74, good teams through the decade, what they might have done. Well, 2 guys, I think in business, Josh, they call that opportunity costs. What might have been had you not taken that action.
Right. J.D. Drew nails one deep to center field. Not deep enough. The first 1-2-3 inning in this game, either side. We're tied 4-4. Change of battery here for the St. Louis Cardinals. Eli Marrero now behind the plate, and he will bat 9th in the order. Into the 8th position goes Dave Veers. He becomes the 4th Cardinal pitcher of the day. This game tied at 4.
Changes. And you brought up a very good point when we went to commercial about Nolan Ryan and Jim Fregosi.
Well, yeah,
71.
You were talking about the 72 trade that maybe has haunted the Cardinals a little bit. The Mets in 71 traded with the Angels for Jim Fregosi, who was in the ballpark today scouting for the Atlanta Braves. Nolan Ryan changing teams, and boy, how different things might have been in the 70s for the New York Mets.
Now you think the #1 strikeout pitcher of all time and the #2, Nolan Ryan with over 5,700 and Steve Carlton with over 4,100.
The story goes that at the winter meetings after the 1970 season, the Mets were just getting slaughtered in the New York papers for not making any trades. Donald Grant was the Mets chairman of the board, and he figured out, if we land a third baseman, maybe everyone gets off our backs. I guess they had the glider. Ed Charles was probably their only really decent third baseman at that point. They wanted to make Amos Otis a third baseman, but that wasn't happening. Anyway, Jim Fregosi was being made available by the Angels, and the Mets bit. They traded Don Rose, Leroy Stanton, Francisco Estrada, and the 24-year-old pre-express Nolan Ryan, who was 29 and 38 at the time of the trade, by the way.
Jim Fregosi, who managed the 1993 Phillies. He's also managed the California Angels. Has his number retired with the Angels. One of the great guys in the game. A funny guy. Says, hey, how many times can you get traded for a guy who strikes out over 5,700 people?
3 balls a strike to Alomar, leading things off here in the 6th.
It's that sense of humor that keeps Jimmy in demand. Whenever Jimmy is let go by one organization, he's picked up by another. He is a terrific baseball man.
Roberto Alomar draws the walk. That is the first walk allowed by St. Louis pitching today. Not a great time for it in a 4-4 game. Normally, you'd say get ready for Alomar to run. But, Tim, you mentioned he's got that bad groin.
Yeah. Well, you could have a straight bunt right here with Piazza, Mo Vaughn, all the thunder coming up. It's one of the dying things with the long-term contracts, things of that nature. You don't see that many sacrifices anymore. Rarely in the American League. Perez, on the other hand, one of the hottest hitters on the Mets this year. A couple of hits today.
He is bunting. And after negotiating the umpire, Eli Marrero grabs it. And again, we've talked about the little things that have dragged down the New York Mets all year. That's one of them.
Yeah, it looked like Perez was caught in between giving himself up and bunting for a base hit. He didn't square around as you normally would do. And he pops it up. And as you said, Marrero, battling home plate umpire Larry Van Over, made the play. If you are going to bunt in that situation, you've got to square around, give yourself up.
Marrero almost went the wrong way, trying to zigzag around the umpire, too. They were locked in a little dance step right there.
Just think, if I were a golf announcer, I could have said, not a good effort. Why is it that only golf announcers are the ones who talk about efforts? It's like an effort is only conveyed in the sport of golf. Never in any other sport.
I like how it's always called a golf shot. That's a very pretty golf shot.
Golf shot.
As opposed to what other kind of shot?
What is this?
2 balls, no strikes. Mike Piazza, his very first Major League home run about 10 years ago, and the irony here is he hit it off the man who's now the pitcher of record on his current team. That was Steve Reed who threw that baseball.
Not a good effort then 10 years ago.
It's a golf clap, by the way, right?
Yes.
In there, 2-1. Not a very productive day for Mike Piazza yet. Couple of strikeouts, he has popped out. And he has stranded 3 runners, 2 of them in scoring position.
Day games after night games affect catcher's swings more than any other swings, generally speaking, particularly August in St. Louis.
Another pop-up. Rough day at the office continues for Mike Piazza. It brings up Mo Vaughn, who does have a couple doubles today. Earlier this year, he was struggling, and we talked to him at the time that he was struggling. He had this to say.
It's all what you look forward to is doing what you're capable of, and that brings a tremendous amount of positive things. You know, when you step in the ballpark, it's very easy to come to the ballpark when things are going well. It's how you react, how you stand up when things are going poorly. And that's all I have to live for, is that time when I can get back to being my old self and wreak some havoc across this field. But it's only going to take hard work. It's only going to take belief in what you got to do and going out there and making it happen.
Mo Vaughn was really raised to be self-reliant. Summer overnight camp at the age of 8, prep school at the age of 14. And you don't hear Mo Vaughn deflecting blame a lot.
Ever.
Fires that one back to the screen, hugging that inside corner.
Telling me before the game that he has backed off a bit. Sometimes if a hitter backs off with his feet, he may not do it with his body. You can see right there, even though the feet of Mo Vaughn may be back just a couple of inches, that body's still leaning over the inside part of the plate. A mountain of a man.
And he slams it to center field, but there's Edmonds wearing Tim McCarver's old number. And that is it. 4-4, the Mets and the Cardinals on Fox. Well, the St. Louis Cardinals came in having lost 8 of 9. They had scored only 20 runs in those 9 games. So when they got out to a quick 4-0 lead today, it seemed like it was time to kick back, relax, put your feet up. No, not happening. 4-4 now. The Cardinals do not have a hit since the first inning. First at bat for Eli Marrero today. Top of the order on deck, that's Fernando Vina. Vina's been on base 3 times. Swatted towards left. And look at this, it gets up and over Scudero. It seemed like a simple fly ball to left off the bat. Scudero came on as a pinch hitter a couple innings ago. Bobby Valentine puts him in left. Tarasco moved to right. This is a nightmare.
Scudero didn't. One turn, another turn. You get an outfielder turned around like that, bad things happen. That ball jumping off the bat of Eli Marrero. And a poorly played ball in left field allows the Cardinals to have their leadoff runner on here in the 6th.
You want a bunt here, Mr. McCarver?
Well, I think there are many ways you can go. I think bunting would be foremost in the mind of Vigna and La Russa right now, unless the count turns in his favor. If it goes to 1-0 and 2-0, he may allow him to hit away. But starting out, I think he'll bunt. If you bunt the ball, you can bunt the ball down the first base line or down the third base line. Let Mo Vaughn field it, or make the third baseman field it, the more conventional of the two strategies.
Well, the Mets having a problem here figuring out whether or not to put anything on. And we'll talk about the bunt defense.
I don't think you can put anything on in this situation. You outsmart yourself. The reason is Vigna's too good a bat handler. Guy who handles a bat like that, the whole left side of the infield is open. You can see right over there. That's too much open space for a guy who can handle a bat as well as Vigna.
No sign of the bunt, but you're right. Even if he does show the bunt, it is not beyond Vigna's scope to just pull back and then shove one into shallow left field.
He can put the ball in play on the left side of the infield. Ordonez really preoccupied with Marrero, a good base runner, at second.
It hit him again.
I think Valentine will argue this.
Yep.
I think he turned into it. I think Bobby would have a good point.
Reed is all over him. Piazza's all over Larry Vanover, too.
I think the Mets have a very good point right here. Vigna leaned into that pitch. That's the second time he's hit in a ball game, and now La Russa is out. I don't know why Tony is out of there unless home plate umpire issued a warning. Now, warning's the last thing you want to issue when the other team is talking about a hitter leaning into a pitch. What?
You heard somebody yell, he does it all the time.
Yep.
And Fernando Vigna is known, kind of like a Craig Biggio, for leaning into one.
The best question is, why is Ordonez in there to argue the play? But if anybody ever leaned into a pitch, it was Vigna then. And hey, fair is fair. I mean, the third base umpire, the second base umpire perhaps could help him, but Bobby Valentine, of all the arguments he's had this year, clearly he's in the right here. You've got to make some attempt to get out of the way of the ball, and contrary to that, Vigna makes every attempt to get hit by the ball. It's a good job by Vigna if you're a Cardinal fan, and bad. Here it is in the second inning. Sean Estes trying to get out of the way there. But right here, that lean right there, you're leaning into it. You're giving the ball a bigger target the last time up.
Vigna,
don't see that call very often.
No, you really don't. And Vigna, I guess to his credit, very stone-faced. I mean, he just kind of acted like, oh, it hit me again.
Absolutely. Watch the freeze on the left. He's trying to get out of the way. And then on the right, leaning into the ball. Yeah, you'd see how close that stance is. That right foot didn't give at all, and Vigna hit by a pitch. Well, Vigna wasn't bunting, but I would suspect Renteria would be right here. Renteria may be the best bunter on the Cardinals.
Not happening yet as he pushes that one foul. Well, the grand irony in all of this would be if Renteria gets down another strike and he's swinging away, then bangs into a double play. The Mets are arguing Vigna should not be at first base right now.
Mo Vaughn was talking to Vigna, and now when Alomar was over to cover the play, he was talking to Vigna about leaning into that pitch. And the most mysterious guy to argue in this inning was Ray Ordonez, who came from his...
There's the bunt. Reed pounces and slings it to first. A sacrifice from Renteria. And now the thumpers are coming up. You've got Edmonds and Pujols and Roland. as the Cardinals try to break it open here in the 6th, and now something else to talk about.
It is right there. Now Ordonez talking to Vigna. Vigna has been spoken with from 3 of the 4 infielders, and both Reed and Piazza argued when he was hit by the pitch. And Vigna, you could see how he was giving his left arm, closing things, talking to Ordonez about it. But now it looks like Charlie Huff is out to talk to Steve Reed, and they're going to make a change. Yep.
With a lefty coming up. There's a lefty coming on. The new pitcher is a lefty, Mark Guthrie, and what a crazy game this has been. The Mets had Sean Estes start, and he allowed 3 walks and a grand slam. There is also this little thing going on with Fernando Vigna and the Mets now. Vigna has been hit by a pair of pitches today. The last one really drew the ire of pretty much everyone wearing that black jersey today.
You may remember the first time he was hit, he looked out at the pitcher, the starter Sean Estes. As Mark Guthrie, the numbers there, he is out to get Jim Edmonds out. Normally you'd keep the right-hander in there and then have Pujols, but there was a warning issued when Vigna was hit by the pitch the last time. So Bobby Ballantyne out there arguing that he was leaning into the pitch. So was Piazza and Steve Reed, and a warning was issued.
Yeah, how odd is that?
I've never seen it before. When the other bench and its manager complained and argued about a guy not getting out of the way, and a warning issued in the process. Weird.
Also a little strange the fact that the Cardinals have been out hit 11-3, but they stand poised to take the lead right now. Again, all the runs in that very active first inning. Runners away from second and third. The infield in except for Alomar at second base. Two balls, 1 strike.
That's not bad strategy, because if a left-hander like Edmonds hits the ball the other way, he doesn't do it as forcefully as he would do it when he pulls the ball. Ordonez is back right now, but he has been coming in. He'll come in with the pitch. The Mets do that occasionally. See if he stays back all the way.
Edmonds himself has been hit by a pitch in this game. Again, Vigna's been plunked twice. Valentin was hit on the Mets side, so 4 total hit batsmen today. And here comes the shortstop Ordonez charging in. The ball ripped to the net.
I'll tell you, if I'm Vigna on at second base and Ordonez starts running toward me, I'm going to move into him.
Yeah?
You have the right to third base. You have the right to the base path. A fielder can't obscure that right. Now, as he's moving in, if you're moving to the right.
Little hip check?
I mean, now he's in all the way, but that's why that play is a bad play, in my view.
Vigna knows about baselines, too. He tangled up with Albert Bell a few years ago. Edmonds drives it to right. Tarasco coming on, makes the catch. Tagging and heading for the plate. Scoring the run is Marrero, and down to third goes Vigna.
He left too early, way too early at third base. Way too early.
Let's see if they appeal. I believe they will. They're going there right now, in fact.
He's out. Oh, man.
They're calling him safe.
He left way too early at third base. You talk about breaks. The Cardinals have had a ton of them this inning. Nope. I was wrong. Randy Marsh made a good call. I was dead wrong. When I looked down there with the naked eye, I thought Marrero easily left too early, but he didn't. Good call by Randy Marsh. interesting way around the bases for Marrero.
Boy, no kidding. And Vina, too. He's had quite an adventure today. He's been moved along on errors and balks. I was with you, though, Tim. It did look like, just because Marrero got such a quick burst, that at least a challenge would be coming, and sure enough, it was right away.
Well, the Cardinals, or the Mets, challenged the play right away, and they had the view of third base and right field, but as our camera showed that was not the case.
Randy Marsh got to make one of the most famous safe calls in recent history. That was at the plate. The Francisco Cabrera pinch single to score Dave Justice, and then miraculously Sid Bream when the Braves and the Pirates went at it in that Game 7.
In '92. I didn't realize Randy was a home plate umpire.
He's the man who got to bellow and spread those arms wide. A foul ball, it's 1-2. And the replays certainly showed he got that one right.
Yeah.
We'd like to welcome those of you who have watched Pedro Martinez obliterate the Twins today. 2-0 was that final. Josh Lewin, Tim McCarver here in St. Louis. The Cardinals have just gone ahead 5-4. Runner at third, 2 out. Albert Pujols has a grand slam today. Now looking for his 5th and maybe his 6th run batted in. Mark Guthrie is the man on the mound. We'd fill you in on everything that you've missed, but it might take a little while. Drilled but fouled. I guess the key thing to get you caught up on is that a warning has been issued to both benches. There have been 4 hit batters in this game. Nice Pedro Martinez segue, by the way. But the last one was controversial for 2 reasons. Fernando Vina appeared to lean into one, literally. But a warning was issued nonetheless. And if there is a 5th hit batsman today, somebody's going to be asked to leave. A pop-up from Pujols and back into the crowd. 5 runs on 3 hits, the 7 walks, and the 3 hit batsmen have certainly helped. And here's the play we were just discussing with Vina. Vina pacing down the line at third. And Pujols out in front. He pops it up. And that is going to do it. A lot of controversy in the inning surrounding that guy. It's now 5-4. We'll return after a word from your local Fox station. A 5-4 lead for the St. Louis Cardinals as we get going in the 7th inning. The Boston and Minnesota audience welcome with open arms to St. Louis, Missouri. John Valentin trying to get the Mets back in it, and on the very first pitch of the inning, the Mets might be on their way. Time for our Pepsi fan cam here in St. Louis. The tip of the hat to B.B. King.
Thrill is gone. The thrill is gone away. The thrill is gone, baby. The thrill is gone away. You know you done me wrong, baby, and you'll be sorry someday.
Will Clark has retired. I guess that's true. The thrill is gone.
I think the fan cam should be hit me with your best pitch for today.
The thrill is gone away.
I'll do it, BB. All right.
I want a copy of that for the portable CD.
You got it. We can handle that.
Can we do that? Do we
Yes.
have people?
Yes.
All right.
Interesting. Scudero down to talk to Matt Galante. Normally you wouldn't bunt in a situation like this. You have Ordonez in the hole. You don't bunt to tie on the road. You're facing a tough right-hander. You don't want to squander an out. See what Bobby Valentine does right here. But normally you would not bunt straight sacrifice with Scudero.
Smothered by Marrero. And remember, Scudero's got some making up to do. It was his misplay in the top of the 6th inning that led directly to the run that has put the Cardinals in front now. Broke in on a ball, then turned around on it. Maybe the wrong way. The ball scooted by him.
I think you hit and run right here. You're going to have the infielders moving around. Again, I would not straight bunt. A lot of times people say, well, there's no speed on at first base. Valentin with many, many knee operations. The speed of the runner at first is not a consideration when you're thinking about putting the hit and run on. It's up to the hitter to make contact.
Another stop by Marrero. That'll keep Valentin at first for now. Dave Veers throws that splitter, which they say is at its best when it's hot and humid. So St. Louis then might be the perfect place for him. Certainly better than Denver, where it snows and the humidity is sometimes single-digit low. Veers coming over from the Rockies with today's starter Luther Hackman, and more famously Darryl Kyle. Rip and a miss with that hit and run going. And are they calling interference here? They're going to go ahead and send the runner back to first, and Bobby Valentine is about to come out again.
I mean, technically you can call that runner out, right? I mean, it was in the process of swinging, but keep in mind, in interference it does not have to be intentional.
Bobby Valentine has been out twice in 2 innings now. The Mets don't really run a lot.
Yeah, but that was part of a hit and run. That's the only, that's primarily when they run. A livid Valentine. He's got a lot to get livid about today. However, remember, it does not have to be intentional. Watch this swing by Scudero. It's late, and his momentum takes him into the throwing path of Marrero. Had Marrero thrown that ball, he probably doesn't get interference call. But the fact that he held on to it.
And you could see Marrero
Scudero's out, too. Out for interference, and the runner retreats to first. I knew there was an out on that play, but I didn't know whether it was the runner. I'd forgotten. I hadn't seen it called in so long, but it's the hitter, Mark Scudero, who is out. And you put the runner who was running back on first base.
Boy, we are given old 6.08 in the rule book a workout today. That's the second time we have been to that subsection in 2 innings.
That's enough.
And you heard Larry Vanover trying to quiet down Bobby Valentine.
It's got to be an output for catcher. A put out for the catcher.
Yeah, it goes 2 unassisted.
Right.
And the Mets now have 1 on, 1 out. You know, the Mets have had the leadoff man on base 6 times in 7 innings today, Tim, but they have scored in only 1 of those innings.
An odd play occurred to me a long time ago with Willie McCovey hitting and Mays running. I threw the ball and it hit the bat of McCovey, who had swung through the pitch, and it was batter interference, and McCovey was out. Another interesting form of that particular play. Weird game.
Absolutely. And the New York Mets, who maintain that they are still in this wild card situation. Although they are, I mean, depends on if you want to be a pessimist or an optimist. They're also tied with Montreal is another way to look at that. A lot of teams to hurdle. This really is right about the time the Mets got it right last year, and they gave the city of New York and really the entire country some much needed feel-good warmth last September. Much of the year last year they were kind of looked at as a sorry bunch of underachievers, and then just before and just after the events of September 11th, they came together. They nearly stole away with the National League East. It was a really touching story in many ways, with a city hurting as badly as it was. A lot of people were able to rally around what the Mets were trying to do. A little check swing bouncer back to the mound. There's one. And on to first, it's not in time. The inning will continue. Now, some more advice for Joe Buck, by the way, as we continue to press forward towards football on Friday. Joe not in the baseball booth now. I'm sorry, Timmy, you're stuck with me. But the Cardinals, they're in Arizona in football, Joe. Football, pigskin. And you want to go ahead and read that rule, by the way, since we've already been through the baseball rules. Any intentional forward movement of a player's arm starts a forward. Isn't that the tuck rule? 3-21/2.2. Bears at Rams Friday at 8. Joe is going to be outstanding.
Fernando Vina had his definition of the tuck rule this afternoon when he tucked into that pitch thrown by Steve Reed, argued by the Mets ineffectively. Here it is. This is baseball's version of the tuck rule. You tuck your shoulder into a pitch. An eventful sixth inning by the Cardinals.
Joe's cramming for the other tuck rule, and now we're throwing that one at him.
Yeah.
One ball, no strikes to count.
Joe and Chris and Troy will, their first game, they had a practice game last night as though they needed practice. Their first game in preseason will be next Friday. Bears here in St. Louis to play the Rams.
Joe, in your honor, you're missing all this today. Your scorecard could look just this messy. Your rule book could be just as dog-eared. But yeah, looking forward to the Bears and the Rams next Friday, and of course the full season of regular season play on Fox again. You mentioned the Bears this year will be playing almost as close to St. Louis as to Chicago on the campus of the University of Illinois. Ordonez back to the mound it goes, and the Mets now have stranded 10 in this game. We are at the stretch. 5-4 and an unhappy Bobby V. Fox Saturday Baseball being brought to you by Bud Light. For the great taste that won't fill you up and never lets you down, and make it a Bud Light. We are titling this game Everything But the Kitchen Sink in St. Louis today. Scott Rowland still trying to get it right as a St. Louis Cardinal. He is 6 for 39 as a St. Louis Cardinal.
Yeah, this is one of those Brunswick stew games.
Always wondered what was in that. Alomar ranging back, and Rowland now 6 out of 40.
In Brunswick stew, well, let's see, there's squirrel, there's quail, there's dove. There's everything but conventional meat. I'm not too sure you want to know everything that's in most Brunswick stew.
You sound right on that.
Okra.
Winfrey?
No. No. Okra.
With
O-K-R-A.
Okla.
Not the one that sells books.
Glad I brought it up. Want to know the count to Tino Martinez. I am familiar with okra from the gumbo family. Was not aware it was also a stew. Tino Martinez 1 out of 3 today. And punches that one foul.
Just taking a look to show you what Barry Bonds has done to baseball. Josh, just looking up at the National League scoreboard here in St. Louis, and Pittsburgh has failed to score in the top of the first. I find myself wondering what Bonds is doing, where Bonds is hitting, when's he going to hit another home run? He hit his 600th last night. Only 4 major league players have ever done that: Aaron, Ruth, Mays, and now Bonds.
Martinez serving one to right center, base hit. Well, it's the same kind of phenomenon that we saw with Mark McGwire. Hank Aaron, number 1 on the charts. Babe Ruth, 714. Willie Mays, 660. Barry Bonds, 600 with a bullet. Mark McGwire introduced us to the phenomenon of seeing foul balls played back on your late local news every night. Wait till you see, folks, how far McGwire hit this one. It was foul, by the way, and the Cardinals lost 12-1. Barry Bonds gives you the same kind of thing right now. Everybody wants to see what he's doing all the time. Eduardo Perez is going to pinch hit. Cardinals are still being out a hit 12-4. But much more importantly, they lead the game 5-4. And again, these games, as we slide to the final 6 or so weeks of the season, you got a couple teams here, as you see Crudale up in the bullpen, well, there's not a lot of mess around to do. The St. Louis Cardinals are being chased down hard by both Cincinnati and Houston.
Houston especially. Yes. Cincinnati and Aaron Boone scored 9 in the first last night. Houston did not win their game. They lost in extra innings to the Atlanta Braves. But Houston, a very, very good ball club. And the thing that's dangerous about Houston is their pitching. Excellent starting pitching.
Even without Shane Reynolds, he's done for the year. All that young pitching, you're right. Oswalt and Miller. Down the line it goes. That's a fair ball for Perez. And it pinballs. That'll get Tino Martinez to third. It's a double off the bench for Perez.
Eduardo Perez hitting only .206 on the year, but playing sparingly, only his 107th plate appearance. But the perception of Perez is that he has had many, many more key hits for the Cardinals than is in the averages. He has done a terrific job for Tony La Russa and the Cardinals. What that double does, it brings the Mets infield in.
And allows J.D. Drew the opportunity to break it open here in the 7th inning. But it's interesting, Tim, as St. Louis tries to pull away from Cincinnati and Houston. What strikes you, I think, is that the Cardinals went out and got Chuck Finley and Scott Rowland last month. The Astros got no one. The Reds settled for Ryan Dempster and Brian Moeller. Cincinnati had shown interest in Finley and Rowland and Bartolo Colon and Jeff Weaver. Fly ball right field. Tarasco coming in, way in, makes the catch and no chance to tag. So now it'll be up to Eli Marrero. The game summary is brought to you by Clarinex. Luther Hackman tried to get through 5 to qualify for the win. He just couldn't get there. Sean Estes had a terrible first inning. Wow, 29 base runners in this game. Well, there is action in the New York Met bullpen right now. David Weathers has been up. You've got a right-hander at the plate right now, but a lefty on deck. And that lefty has been certainly in the eye of the storm today, Fernando Vina.
I honestly think, Josh, that baseball has gotten to the point where anytime now Charlie Huff's going to go out and talk to Mark Guthrie or perhaps take him out. But, you know, I think you walk guys intentionally or you pitch to them. I think baseball has gotten to the point where they're stymied with first base open. A decade ago, it wasn't like that. It was all this pitch around the guy. Even announcers talking about it now in the first inning, the second inning. You got first base open, first base open. You either pitch to a guy or get him out or walk him intentionally.
They're going to go get the right-hander.
That's the other option.
Yeah, very nice. David Weathers comes on. If you think you can go yard on a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, take your best shot with Hit the Pros from FoxSports.com.
Goodbye, Mr. Baseball.
The only online game that lets you hit the exact pitches thrown by big leaguers in real games. Step into the batter's box by logging on to FoxSports.com on Lycos. Keyword Hit the Pros. Now Dave Weathers, the 5th New York Met pitcher today. Runners at second and third, 2 out. Eli Marrero up there, and Eli takes a strike. Only at bat for Eli Marrero today resulted in a double. That's the ball on which Scutero, the left fielder, simply turned the wrong way, and it glided past him. Tino Martinez and Eduardo Perez, the St. Louis runners here. 5-4 game. The Mets have a dozen hits, but what they don't have is a lead. On 0-2, that ball ripped towards center. And that'll do it. Cardinals strand a couple more. This is still a 1-run game as we go to the 8th on Fox. Both teams have gone deep into the bullpen today. Mike Crudell comes out there for St. Louis now. A 5-4 lead for the Cardinals. And Crudell, who had never been past Double-A until this year, is going to face a pinch hitter, Roger Cedeno, who was supposed to be the guy all year, Tim, to make things happen atop the order for the New York Mets.
Yeah, a guy who had 55 stolen bases last year. He has 13 this year. And there are a lot of his teammates that are unhappy with the weight gain that he has had this year, particularly the bottom part of his body. And if you're a base stealer and a guy who relies on speed, that part of your body cannot get heavier. It slows you down too much.
He was slowed down by his manager in Detroit at the end of last year. Phil Garner set him down for the last 3 weeks of the season. And that cost him a couple things, really. Cedeno bends away from this one. At the time of his benching, Cedeno had a 10 stolen base lead on Ichiro. But then over the last 3 weeks, Cedeno never sniffed any playing time. Ichiro sailed past him. The other thing that it cost Cedeno was money. He was 3 plate appearances shy of an incentive clause. This one skipping into center field. And Roger Cedeno is on. Will he be running?
That's an interesting point about the money. I didn't realize that there was an appearance clause in that contract.
$50,000 is what it cost Roger Cedeno to get into that argument with Phil Garner.
You saw the bunt by Scudero. You will not see a bunt here unless it's for a base hit. No way do you sacrifice a guy like Alomar. You know, you look at this game, Josh, and it's a game that Tony La Russa expected. I mean, you send Luther Hackman out there, and you want him to go 3 to 5 innings, as Tony told us, and then just rely on the bullpen. But I mean, if his, you know, what happens to your starting staff, as has happened to the Cardinals starting staff, what else are you going to do? You just keep that shuttle running between your AAA affiliate Memphis and St. Louis.
Third baseman rolling in on the grass. Cedeno's moving, and he's going to be doubled off. And if you could sum up the Mets season in a snapshot, take a picture of that.
Right here. Smoked. Nothing Cedeno can do but look back glumly. Two steps to the right. It's a tie ball game, and Alomar is on at second. As it stands, 2 outs on 1 pitch.
Now you've got the lefty Perez at the plate. Perez hitting .340 against righties. He is hitting .116 against lefties. But it's the closer that's up. That is Jason Isringhausen.
Normally, well, this little visit, Josh, is Dave Duncan out there to give Isringhausen time to warm up the pitch to Piazza. If Perez gets on. There is no way that, you know, we were talking before the game about Jason Isringhausen, who became a proud father last Sunday, his first little baby girl, and he has had different changes in sleep patterns this week. But we were saying that there is no way that Isringhausen doesn't get in this game, and sure enough, you know that now.
And I suppose the possibility existed that you get Steve Klein up if you want to go lefty-lefty here, but Klein has not been nearly as effective this year as compared to last year against the lefties. Plus, maybe you want to keep some bullets in your holster for later in a game like this.
In all probability, this is the last man that Crudale will face. You don't think Tony will allow Piazza to hit unless he's got his best reliever in there, and that best reliever is Isringhausen.
Rip, he didn't get it. Up high with the heat. And the Piazza at bat will have to wait another inning. It's still 5-4. Fox Saturday Baseball brought to you by Sprint. Experience a clear alternative to cellular today. By Aquafina bottled water so pure we promise nothing. And by new Lochamin Ultra, the only once-a-day cure for athlete's foot. By the arch and hard by the interstate that bears McGuire's 1998 home run total, 70. Joe McEwing is into the game now to play left field, and he will be batting 6th in the batting order now. Scott Strickland is yet another New York Met pitcher.
It's a very subtle move by Bobby Valentine, but he's putting McEwing in there. McEwing is due up 4th in the 9th inning, but you're going to bolster your defense to try to keep this a one-run ball game. If you're the Cardinals, you play this like a game that's tied right now. One more run is vital for the Cardinals, with the meat of the order coming up for the Mets in the top of the 9th.
Right now it's Fernando Vina. That is a number 4 he's wearing and not a bullseye. He has been hit by a pitch twice in the game. Now, last one was rather controversial. The Mets maintained he leaned into it. And that was, Tim, a part of that one-run sixth inning that does stand up as a difference in the game right now.
It used to be, if you want to lean into a pitch, we'll give you something to lean into. And, I mean, those were the laws of the jungle 20 years ago. And I'm not too sure that the Mets are going to forget about this with Vina. He tried to lean into that fastball on the inside part.
Don Drysdale used to say, if one of our guys went down, I just doubled it. No confusion there. You hit 2 of our guys, I'm going to hit 4 of yours.
Yeah, of course, that's retaliation. And speaking of retaliation, Bob listening to our game in Omaha this afternoon. I remember Bob was one of the first guys that I heard. You want to lean into one? You want to take one for the team? I'll give you one to take. But you know what Vina cannot do? He can never look out at a pitcher. If that's his style, and that has been, and you give him credit. I mean, that's a way to get on base. If he can do it, why not? But if he is hit intentionally by another team, you can't go after anybody because your game is being hit.
Right, you can't have it both ways.
No, you can't have it both ways, right.
And Vina, remember when he did get a hit back in the second inning, was staring daggers out there towards the mound.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Vina's been on base 4 times today. He has not hit the ball in fair territory yet.
You know what would happen if he leans into a pitch right now? Home plate umpire could eject the pitcher because the warning's already been issued.
That's right. Moot point for now. Ground ball to second base. Edgar Renteria coming up. And Tim, you mentioned the nice story a little earlier with Edgar Renteria on a hand at the Jackie Joyner Kersey Center in East St. Louis, dedicating the newest Cardinals Care ball field. And that really means something to Edgar Renteria to be able to help out like that. He grew up dirt poor in Colombia.
Barranquilla.
The youngest of 8 children. He helped his mother sell fruit and fish to try and eke out a living. His dad had passed away when he was 3 years old.
Yeah, his comments about that field, he was so proud of that field being named after him. And saying that perhaps I can have a field named after me in Barranquilla someday. And it would, if he does, it'll be a field that he erects.
Hot shot to short. And since we're on the subject of so many shortstops at this point, let's remind everybody that this weekend on Beyond the Glory, a look at Ozzie Smith, who broke down barriers on his way to the big leagues, and it inspired him to become a legend. Then the dispute with management ending his playing days. Find out about the Ozzie you didn't know on Beyond the Glory this weekend on Fox Sports Net. And what a stirring speech that was in Cooperstown. They will honor Ozzie tomorrow. They will unveil a statue of the Wizard here in St. Louis. Ozzie talked about enduring rejection in his Hall of Fame induction speech. He said, just think of how much greatness we'd be living without today if those who were pursuing the dreams did not have the courage to withstand rejection and disappointment. He talked about Thomas Edison trying over 1,000 times to create the light bulb. He asked what would have happened if he would have quit at 976.
A lot of candles.
Ozzie said we'd all go home and watch TV in the dark. Ba-doom boom. 1-1 the count to Edmonds.
Better case for remote control. Couldn't find the knob to turn it on.
Fastball squares the count at 2-2. Now, when you look ahead to the top of the 9th inning, you've got power coming up. You've got Piazza and Vaughn leading off. Cardinals trying to bang out some insurance here. Edmonds has 23 home runs. Boy, if the Cardinals can steal away with this one, having been out hit 13-5. Maybe that's the jump start they've been looking for the last week and a half. A walk to bring up Albert Pujols.
We have kidded Joe Buck throughout this telecast. Joe watching our telecast, but so far the Cardinals are ahead in this game because of turnovers. Fumbles deep in their own territory. They have had no offense.
The tuck rule.
Right, the tuck rule.
But there's also been a grand slam. That was provided by this man, Albert Pujols, in the first inning. And Joe, if you were, working on your spotting charts and you missed it, there it went.
After the fumble on the 6th, the Cardinals push across their first 4 points.
Rip. It's 1-1.
Not only rip, but the backswing hitting the back of the glove of Piazza and knocking the ball loose. Had the runner tried to advance, it would have been no advance. Well, that's a dangerous backswing, and you can see Albert Pujols. Usually if the hitter has that, he'll come up and alert the catcher if the catcher's not aware of that. But if that hits the back of the head, that could do some serious damage.
Were there guys when you played that you knew to watch out for back then?
Oh yeah, many. Can't think of one right now, but I know it happened to Dick Bertel back in the with the Chicago Cubs when we all wore soft helmets or soft caps. Gary Matthews. Nice going, Ethan. But Gary was the type of guy with the backswing.
Well, guys still have big backswings. Did they have chains like that, though, that they ripped off of bicycles?
No. I've seen too many catchers wearing chains.
Foul ball back this way.
Can you imagine a tag play or something like that? And I'm serious. And a guy comes in, the guy's trying to tag him. He wraps a hand behind or in between the neck and the chain. It's a nice little thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does the name Tom Dooley come to mind? I've never understood why guys wear jewelry playing baseball. I never figured that out.
Old school Tim McCarver. That one is out of play.
That's no school, really. I mean, I just don't figure that out. You got Albert Pujols with a chain on, and you got Scott Strickland with a chain on. I don't understand that.
When we see supermodels on the runway with cleats, then things even out.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Right,
Yeah. Milan, the newest from Versace. Spikes.
You do that a little too well. Did you know that? Ground ball to short. It goes 6-4. The fielder's choice. The Cardinals have stranded 11.
I've been working on it.
But they lead 5-4. Fashion plate. Kerry Robinson is now in left field instead of Albert Pujols. And on the mound, a very important change, too. The closer, Jason Isringhausen.
Numbers on Jason, and as we said 6 days ago, a little baby girl born to the Isringhausens makes his home in Edwardsville, right across the river, Illinois.
Of course, Jason was originally property of the New York Mets, 44th round pick, and he wears that number 44 out there to kind of throw it back in the face of everybody that thought he should have lasted 44 rounds. He has gone from the Mets to a very successful stint as a closer in Oakland. And then even though he was courted by the Texas Rangers, among others, this winter, he chose not to go where the most money was, but rather where his grandma was. Jason's hometown and grandma both about a 40-minute drive from here in St. Louis.
Earlier we talked about Mike Piazza, that day game after a night game swing with Mo Vaughn on deck. If Piazza hits a fastball out of the ballpark, it'll probably be to right field. Edmonds shading him toward right center.
This is right around the time last year that Isringhausen hit a little pothole against a New York team. It was the Yankees.
That is nasty right there. Woo!
Piazza up over top of it, and the count dips now to 1-2.
Yeah, that was when Jason was with the Oakland Athletics. No question about his arm.
Trying to get Piazza. And he'll have to try again. Isringhausen was actually a center fielder in college. He didn't pitch until he was drafted by the Mets, 44th round. Some outstanding numbers with the A's. Piazza is down on strikes. He's got the hat trick today. 3 strikeouts.
Look how far Jason Isringhausen missed with that pitch. You can see Marrero sitting outside, and watch Marrero move to his left. That's a backup cut fastball. It was meant to be, the design was supposed to be outside, stayed inside, still got Piazza.
Now can he get Mo Vaughn? Mo with a couple of doubles today. On the ground to first. With 2 down, let's take you to our great beat of the game, brought to you by Dr. Scholl's. First inning, Albert Pujols, goodbye. Dr. Scholl's, look, feel, do better. Now it is up to John Valentin to try and prolong this. The Mets out hitting the Cardinals 13-5, but about to lose this game. Unless Valentin does something heroic. By the way, the producer of today's game, the coordinating producer of Major League Baseball on Fox, Michael Weissman. The director, Bill Webb. Associate Director, Aaron Stoikoff. The broadcast associate, Eric Billigmeyer. A strike poured right in there at 96.
That's another one of those cross-the-plate strikes. Marrero sitting outside. Fastball inside.
To right field. And turning and going foul. appeal, but no swing. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
That is a tough pitch off of which to lay when you get all those fastballs. And then the knuckle curve. Very few pitchers in baseball throw it. Mike Mussina, the guy who features it the most.
He got him! And the St. Louis Cardinals pull it out today. On a crazy day here in St. Louis.
Some of those games, Josh, you just figure, how do we do this? But the Cardinals did.
13 hits to 5. The Mets over the Cardinals, but the Cardinals win it. And for more information on today's game and for the latest information on Major League Baseball, you're invited to go to foxsports.com. For Tim McCarver, Josh Lewin saying so long from St. Louis. Again, your final score today, the Cardinals 5 and the Mets 4. You've been watching Fox Sports, your home for the 2002 Major League Baseball playoffs and World Series.